One.
Hey guys, this is Jack here with Jarrett, Sifra, Carlos, and Frank, bringing you our Season 7 Showdown Battle League draft video. We're going to be going over all 20 teams, giving our thoughts and opinions, talking about the picks and such, and then end by giving it a rating out of 10. So our first overall team is Josh of the London Lucarios. He has Tapu Koko, Gliscor, Mega Sharpedo, Volcarona, Alolan Muck, Dhelmise, Druddigon, Xatu, Scavalier, Vanillix, and Beware. So what do you guys think about this team?
Well, you see, I think it's okay. Vanillix sort of throws me off just looking at his team. That's what I gotta say.
I think Tapu Koko pick one was kind of not a good choice. It was safe, but I don't think it is good enough to be first pick. I think he could have done a lot better with his team. I think the rock weakness or like lack thereof of a switch into rock is kind of bad. So he'll probably have a hard time with that. But other than that, it's not an awful team. But yeah,
It
I
def
do like Coco as the top pick, honestly, a lot, and it hits pretty hard and pretty fast. I'm good with that much, but pretty.
I will say we can't just ignore it. There was a post draft trade of Bronzong for Druddigon. What do you guys think about that?
I'm very happy about it personally.
I would hope
I
so.
feel like Bronzong helped out his ice and rock weakness, and it gave him another. I mean, I guess Druddigon's also a stealth rocker, but I feel like Bronzong had more like defensive synergy with his team, but Druddigon is pretty good. I don't know. I don't know if it's like a bad trade. I just feel it kind of opened up some weaknesses.
Yeah, it's definitely a good
Should be his
mon to have on
planet.
that.
Go ahead.
It's definitely a good mon to have on his team, but it's not anywhere near as like good with the team as Bronzong would be. So I think it's kind of a questionable trade for him, but not necessarily a bad one. But I guess we'll see how he ends up using it. So
I will say I love
Mega
the
Sharp,
Scavalier pick. That's a low-key amazing bomb.
yeah,
definitely,
Scavalier is really good. Mega Sharpedo is really good as well. The past 2 seasons has been like very high in the overall kills, and so is
hmm
Alolan Muck. Um, he's got like big offensive threats, just a few common weaknesses overall.
yeah,
I like
I
Tapu
think it's
Koko. Go like Mega Sharpedo. Don't like Gliscor. Here, Vanillux is weird. Dhelmise is eh. Beware is kind of weird, and that's about where my opinion stands.
Okay, and with that, what grades do you guys give this team?
I'd go probably like 7 out of 10. Like not a bad team, but kind of like average overall. I'd say.
are we going with point fives or no?
Yeah, you can go
I'll
down to
give him five
0.25 if you want.
point two five. I'll give him
I
5.5
want to
just
give him.
because the synergy is just not there. Like I feel like he has a lot of good picks, but they don't mend together as well as they should. So yeah, good team, but not good like together at once.
0.75 because like everyone's saying or like what was said, he has good picks, but none of them seem to really mesh with each other really well. They're just his team works well together, but at the same time, they're all solid on their own picks.
I'm gonna have to go with a little higher than Jarrett. I'll go with a 6. I love his offense. His defense is a bit questionable, and then I don't know. It feels like he's missing some stuff. And his last few picks, Vanillix especially, not a huge fan of it.
Yeah, I'm probably in the 6 range as well. I do really like Muck, Alola, and Escavalier on defense, but defensive threats on a pretty balanced looking build. This is about right.
Jack, what did you give him again?
I think I gave him a 7, so I think
Okay.
like about a 6 average
Yeah.
makes sense.
No, we doing this live. It's a 6.4 average.
6.4. Hey, there you go. All right, moving on to our second team. We have Lauren in the Lazy Town Lapras. She has Kieran Black, Victini, which is her high tier Z move holder, Buzzwole, Mega Aggron, Primarina, Shaman, Electros, which is her low tier Z holder, Superior, Kamala, Lipard, and Muck. I really, really like this team. I think she can also bring her first 6 picks to every single week, and she'll probably still do well just because the synergy of those first mons are really, really good, and she has a lot of good wall breakers. The only problem I have with this team is that's really slow, and she has a lot of powerful breakers and good bulk, but it would help if she had like one fast thing that can come in late game and clean up. Because things like Kieran Black, Victini, Buzzwole, Primarina, Shaman, they all kind of cap out like at 100 at the most for the speed tiers. That would be like my only flaw with this team. Also, not really sure about Muck as a pick because it's kind of bulky, but its poison's not a great typing defensively, especially because it's especially bulk. What does everyone else think?
I'm going to be the first to say that this is my favorite team. I don't know if I think it's the best team or not, but it's my favorite team overall. I love all the picks. I think what you said about Monk isn't really true personally. I think Poison's a great type defensively. At least that's just my opinion. But I think a lot of the synergy is there as opposed to what we looked at with Josh's team, and that's going to be a real strength going forward. But the speed thing is going to be an issue probably. Other than that, though, I don't see much of a problem with this team.
Yeah, the reason I said about Muck was just because its physical bulk isn't amazing, and a lot of time poisons are to check like offensive fighting types and stuff like that. I think it's still good. I don't. It's like the last pick overall, so it's not a big deal regardless.
Yeah, I suppose that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, going along with what they said, it's early, but this is definitely one of the best, if not the best team. It has great offense. Like Jack was saying, it's a little lacking in speed, but I don't care about speed, so I absolutely love this team.
Coming from Carlos.
Right. I've used Shaman a bunch, and I used Rhyperior recently. Those two great Pokemon, and obviously Mega Aggron's the best Mega. So it's also a team she's familiar with, having drafted a few of these last season. So I'm intrigued to see how she does with it. Her division in conference is a bit hard, but she is a very strong team, so she should do fine.
I think I'm a little less of a fan of this than you guys. I still think it's a really good team. I have a little bit of a problem with the lack of reliable recovery, really outside of Shaman and Kieran B. Slower team. Going to be impossible to switch into. So if she can keep the pace of games going, it's going to be scary.
Well, Kieran Black does have Roost. Buzzwole has Roost, and she could potentially use like Wish Passing with Kamala, although it's not the
Yep.
bulkiest thing. I wish she had a better cleric for Mega Aggron, just because it does kind of need that support. But she has like other defensive options she can fall back on, and not really that many common weaknesses, which is good.
Yeah, I've actually used Kamala as a special wall with Wish, so I can already see it works, and I think that she probably should use that, especially use the Wish Pass and Aggron.
So I see her team, and while it has a lot of power, all I can really look at is just her fighting weakness here. Like Aggron Mega, Kieran B, Rhyperior, Leopard, Kamala, Mons that are weak to a fighting attack. Rhyperior does get a solid rock. I'm Aggron Mega, like they have low special defense, so even though Focus Blast may be Focus Blast could easily take them out, and that's kind of a problem I'm seeing here. Pokemon that are weak to fighting, I see that as a really exploitable weakness in her team. While
Look at all.
besides that,
My bad.
that weakness, it's a very powerful team, and that's definitely something people are going to have to look out for just because all of these Mons, like Kieran, Victini, Buzzwole, Aggron, Primarina, Shaman, right, Period, like they're powerful, they're strong. And so if someone's not careful, they will get mowed down just by pure power on its own. Careful enough with their own fighting stab Pokemon if they have it, like they'll be able to play around these weaknesses pretty easily, especially because on Rhyperior Solid Rock, people will be able to predict that and be able to work around that. It's just there's a lot that is just that fighting weakness just stands out to me very distinctly.
I mean, I'm
Well,
gonna
of
have
the
to disagree because, like, for every mod that you see that has a fighting weakness, if you just get her resistances to fighting, I mean, Victini, Buzzwole, Primarina, Muck, all four of those resist fighting, and all four of those are relatively bulky, especially Buzzwole, Primarina. So I feel like those could switch in pretty easily to just about any fighting type attack. And
Also,
if
the
one
five
really
Also
goes
have
in, it could.
three are low tier picks or like lower tier, so I feel like on an average week, she's probably not going to bring all of Rhyperior, Komala, Liepard. She might have two, maybe three, so I don't know if it'll be the biggest deal, but it is something to note.
I can't agree. If Buzzwole goes down, she definitely will have some issues with fighting type, but I don't think it's brutally bad. I think all teams have that one type that's they're weak against, and she can definitely get around it.
I
All
think the
right, so
reliance on Buzzwole as a switch in is kind of bad because it has a 4 times flying weakness, and generally, if you see flying type attacks in a fight, you're generally looking at something like Air Slash, something special, and Buzzwole has very poor special defense. Besides that, Shaman also has a flying weakness because of its grass typing, and then Primarina has a weakness to electric type attacks, which is a common attack type, especially like in League. You know, people bring Thunderbolt a lot, well, when they have it available, and well, in your team does have a way of balancing out its weaknesses. At the same time, they do have very glaring weaknesses that are very easily exploitable, and that's just kind of when I see the team here.
but Primarina is also like his only electric weakness. I mean, and I think I forgot what the other one he said was flying. I think it's Buzzwole and just Shaman, and then he has Rhyperior, Mega Aggron, which takes on pretty much any flying type. Electros, which is also pretty good in that regard. So outside of fighting, I feel like she has most of the other weaknesses confirmed, especially because some of her Pokemon are so bulky. Like Kieran Black can take a fairy move if it needs to. It's got amazing defenses, Shaman and Rhyperior and stuff. Nothing on her team is really that frail outside of, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, basically her entire team is like bulky offense, and I think that's going to play to her advantage because, I mean, it's one thing to have like such a hard hitter, but it's another to have a bunch of them, but also have them be able to switch in when need be. So I think she'll find it pretty easy to rely on something to switch into
So,
usually.
what are we thinking for rankings? Because we think we've been on Lauren for a while. I'm gonna go ahead and say 9 because there's 20 teams. I think so many people got sniped and stuff that this team still looks so good that I'm gonna say 9.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I'm gonna give it an 8.5. I think it's definitely one of the top five teams. It's hard for me to give it a 9 or a 9.5. I don't know. I think it's a great team still.
I'm going with 9.5 because, it's not perfect. I've never really seen a perfect draft, so it's pretty damn close though. So yeah, I'll go with the 9.5 for this one.
I'm coming in at an 8 here. I have concerns about the speed topping out at 100. Besides Liepard, I guess, to really go too much higher. But it's a good team.
Yeah, I'm aiming at an 8, 7.75 to 8, just again because I noticed all these weaknesses and again I didn't mention speed being an issue because other people mention it, but yeah, speed is also an issue on this team, so I'm gonna have to get it around an 8.
All right, so it looks like 8.5 is probably about the average for that.
Eight.
So
If I count it as a
8,
7.75, so it's 8.55.
somewhere in that range. Next team is Corey of the Atlanta Viaris. Wasn't able to make it tonight.
Rip
His
Corey.
first, he has Latios, Mega Mawile, and Fernape as his high tier Z move user. Mamoswine, Roserade, Chansey, Sharpedo, Lantern, Mismagius, low tier Z move user, Cradilly, and Vikavolt. I really like this team. It's got good mix of speed, bulk, and a lot of hazard setters, which is nice. Yeah, this is one of my maybe not the best team, but one of my personal favorites. At least I really like what he has in the synergy. What does everyone else think?
Well, on the contrary,
So,
I
have
really
issues.
dislike this team because I don't know. It seems super predictable. Like there's like this divide between his top tiers and lower tiers. In my opinion, like the only one of his lower tiers that's going to be brought a lot, I think,
What?
would be Sharpedo, maybe. Even then, like his top like 5 or 6 is just. I don't think there's anything that's going to really stop him from bringing those every single week, personally, unless he has to bring something else. So
I have issues with this team only on the basis that Fernape is strong, but I don't think it's strong enough. And Mawile Mega is not fast enough, even with Sucker Punch. I don't think it's gonna. Just because, again, to me, speed means a lot when it comes to league format. Because if you try to draft a Trick Room team, it'll get predictable. So generally, you want to have a faster team. A solid pick, just because Latias in general is a solid pick, along with Mamoswine. Roserade has good hazard potential, and it has good power and speed. I'm not a fan of Chansey because in league format, I'm not a fan of Eviolite users. Used Dusclops excellently last season, but again, personally, Eviolite just feels too restrictive, especially when Blissey was an option with leftovers, or at least any other kind of item. I think Sharpedo will be brought a lot just because it's got that speed boost, and because find Mawile, his Mega is not going to do as well as he might hope. Lantern, I think, is just a shitty wall in general. I think is again, it's got good coverage, but it's not necessarily overly powerful. It needs to set up once, but it's really frail. Really frail. Cradley has always been a solid wall when I've used it in PU, and I'm not a fan of Vikavolt just because while it's powerful, again, it's slow and it's not like bulky enough, in my opinion, to be able to last long enough.
I'm gonna defend some of his lower tier picks. I really love Lantern. It's got amazing typing and a lot of great immunities with its abilities. And Mismagius is really probably one of the best lower tier Z move users because its coverage is so amazing and it has Nasty Plot in case it needs the extra setup. It's got so many options in terms of its Z moves that it can be really effective as a low tier user. And I've seen Vikavolt actually as an agility set be used pretty well. So, I mean, there is potential for that. I like his low tier picks. I think he's got enough like sort of tricks up his sleeve that he can mix it in with his more consistent higher tier picks, and it'll be effective.
I
Yeah,
completely agree with you on that one. He's got the really good A tier offensive core with his first couple of picks, but then I really like how he rounds it out with his C tier and D tier picks, especially the D tier. I'm a big Lantern fan personally. Value for a pretty good bulky pivot with its useful immunities.
yeah. To echo what the last two have been saying, I think he has some of the best low tiers. They're not like I can understand Vikavolt. It really depends on the person. Same with a few of them, but they're really impressive. And I think overall his team has a lot of good offensive chemistry. I wish he had a little bit more defense because I feel like if Chansey goes down, he can have some issues or Lantern. But offensively, his team is definitely one of the best in the league.
Okay, so what's everyone thinking for ranking? I'm gonna go overall and say probably 8 out of 10. I think solid overall, not the best, but definitely solid.
I'll give him a 7.5. I think it's okay. I just think there's going to be some issues he has. I think he'll probably swap out his Mega at some point. It's the Mega that I'm really like focused on. I know, but past and the Chansey again. I don't think Eviolite. I think Eviolite's going to be crippling. It's a solid 7.5.
I'll go with 7. I don't know. It's just you guys are piping up as low tiers, but I don't see them working as well as you say. I do love like Miss Magius and Cridley, but I don't know. Either way, 7 out of 10, decent team, not great in my opinion.
I'm gonna have to agree with Jared on that one. Although I don't think he made any bad picks, I don't like the overall chemistry of the team, like as a whole. I think he has a lot of good mons. I see him losing one or two mons and then just not being able to recover in a battle.
I'm gonna go more in line with Jack and say about an 8 for me. I do pretty well in holding together a defensive core
All right,
he's
so it's
got
like
there.
all right, so I guess about 7.5, about the average overall. Moving on to Cody in the Zeneca Zekroms. His team is Excadrill, Zapdos, Entei, which is high tier Z user, Uxie, Alamamola, Megaseptile, Sock, Diancie, which is his low tier Z user, Cofagrigus, Heracross, and Glaceon. Pretty interesting team. I feel like Cody's one of the more creative drafters. He drafts teams that I really don't see anyone else kind of use, if that makes sense. Um, Mega Septile is, I think, a steal in Tier C because it's got pretty good coverage and amazing speed, so it's very good at cleaning up late game. He's got some solid walls and breakers. The only issues I see with this team is kind of like what he had in Season 5. His walls are very, very passive, like Uxie and Alamamola. They can be taken advantage of. Um, and I'm not really sure I really like his Z users. Entei is almost always going to be banded most of the time, so I don't really know how good it's going to be as a Z user. Same thing of Diancie. So it's a good Pokemon, but I think maybe Trick Room, Offensive Cofagrigus, or something, or maybe even Sock could have been better options. What does everyone else think?
Yeah, I think that was the problem with his draft is that his Zmons he didn't really have good choices for any of them. Like you could say Zapdos, but Zapdos doesn't get amazing coverage, or Excadrill, but I don't know why you put a Zemo on Excadrill personally. But I do like this team. I think it's a pretty good team. It's not one of the best, but I think it's in the top half of the teams. Really like the way he drafts, though. Again, like you said, he was one of the more creative drafters, and I really enjoy that. Have enjoyed that past seasons when he's drafted, and I think Sceptile is going to be really good for him, especially coming from Tier C. So we'll see how he ends up using his draft.
Yeah,
It's diverse, and I like that. Like people saying he's creative, it's very diverse. And while I don't really particularly like Entei as a Z crystal holder, I don't see a better option. As far as like first off, his Mega, I think Mega Sceptile is as you can get at the price that it is because it has a solid amount of power. It gets set up in Sword Stance if you don't want to be special. Like it's a solid Pokemon. Sock is solid. I think Diancie is kind of a weak pick, but at the same time, it does have bulk. Though all the same, it does have good power. So as a Zmon, it might do well. Rodriguez because I'm just a fan of that Pokemon, even though I sucked complete ass with that thing. And I think is a solid choice. I think Heracross is a little slow, and the flying weakness kind of gets to me. But I think Scarfed, he'll be able to do well with it. Although I kind of see overlap between that one and Sock. Balls in Alomomola and Uxie, they're not necessarily ideally typed. I mean, water is good, but usually you want water with something else. But team is pretty solid for how interestingly diverse it is. I think he'll do well, but I do see issues arising.
although I don't agree with the double fighting type draft, I think Heracross and Soccer definitely separate Pokemon. Heracross with Guts is especially amazing. Now that Burn does less damage, and then also it has Moxie. Or on the other hand, Sock gets Sturdy and I mean it gets Mold Breaker. So they do very different things. It's just they're both middling speed fighting types. Overall, though, I do love his team. I agree with Jarrett saying it's one of the top half teams. The Z Crystal holders definitely will be challenging for him. But I think Diancie is a very solid fairy type. It's nice to have the rock typing and then also the fairy typing. And to echo, Mega Sceptile is one of the best valued megas with these current tiers.
One of the final things I want to say about his team is that he has a couple quad weaknesses, but the quad weaknesses he has, his team isn't generally weak to it. Like DNC is weak to. The only other steel weakness he has is Glaceon, so I don't think people are going to be too keen to pack HP steel or other coverage for it. Same thing with things like Heracross and Sceptile, which could work in his favor. I had that with Mega Garchomp last season, where it was my only ice weakness, despite being 4X, so that could be useful. Does anyone else want to add anything?
The thing I see with this team is honestly, as the draft started going on, I kept waiting for the Mega Tyranitar pick to go with Excadrill. So I was a little bit Sceptile, but I hope it works out for him because it's a pretty cool pick.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
definitely a great point. Sand, even Mega T-Tar went the last round. That would have really helped this draft.
I mean, he did have T-Tar in like what season 5 was it? I think he did with Excadrill. If I'm
Yeah,
not
he had
mistaken.
a similar Season 5 team with the Sandcore, Mega Sceptile, Uxie instead of Cresselia, but Alomomola again. His team is pretty
Yeah.
similar to Season 5 one, just a few sub
Yeah.
picks, really. But he did make playoffs that season, so, I mean,
Yeah, he
that
did.
bodes
He
well
did.
for him.
So. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give him a 7.5. Yeah, like, I feel like his users kind of weigh him down, and I do agree that Excadrill and it's not. I don't want to say it's bad because it's definitely still good, but it's a bit more limited, especially as his first round pick overall. But he still has really good options overall, some solid bulk, and as said, as Mega Sceptile and Tier C is a really good value pick.
I will say one thing. We haven't really addressed this as much. If you look at the next pick in the draft, it was Landorus T. And I get that Excadrill is nice with its rapid spin, but it's sad to see Lando T drop like that past him. But I'm going to have to give him a 7.5 also.
I'll give the same rating, 7.5. Just pretty good draft, but nothing amazing. But he's worked wonders with a lot of these mons before, so hope we can see him do it again, I guess.
I give him a 7.75 just because I do like the creativity in the draft. I like the different type coverages and just the spread of different power that he has. But yeah, he does. I think like Jack mentioned in the beginning, his walls are definitely passive, so I think that'll be a problem for him when he tries to play.
Yeah, I'm jumping on the 7 train right here. It is a good team, some good threats overall. I'm a little iffy on how it'll go together, but good with a team like this in the past, so there's no reason why I can't do it again.
All right, so it looks like about 7.5 is the average for this one. Next up, we have Kevin in the Baltimore Orioles. His team is Landers T. Roar, Vileplume, which is his low tier Z holder, Dusknoir, Steelix, and Bisharp. Few quick comments I had. He's like probably one of the best megas in this format, at least for Gen 7 right now. It's just very good speed tier, hits very hard and amazing pool. I like that Incineroar now is Intimidate. I think it makes it better, like Kyurem Raikou. The biggest problem I have with this team is I have no idea why he didn't go for Landorus T as his Z holder. I think Landorus T is single-handedly the best user of Z moves in the entirety of Pokemon, well, at the very least OU. And I think Tapu Fini is probably one of the worst because his coverage is water, fairy, grass, ice, and that's it. And it doesn't have the setup options that Lando has with having Calm Mind, whereas Swords Dance, Bulk Up, Calm Mind, and really good stabs to use advantage of Z moves. It sounds like a minor thing, but when you look at how well Dennis Sanders team with Z moves last season, going like 10-2 and winning, I think that is actually a big deal. Like it's a big missed opportunity for. What does everyone else have to add?
I have an issue with his draft, and the big thing is that he has a lot of ground. Like just the ground stab that anyone can bring will be an issue for him because Steelix, Bisharp, and Raikou are all weak, and Incineroar are weak to it. Vileplume is neutral to it, and because Vileplume isn't necessarily all that bulky, I mean, it's 75, 85, 90, which isn't bad. Doesn't It still doesn't resist it quite enough. Dust Noir neither has like quite a bit of bulk to resist it. I mean, Rabombi kind of resist. I mean, does Bug resist ground? I actually forget. I think I might have that wrong. And the only
Yeah, it
real thing
does. Bug does resist ground. Rabombi's not that bulky.
is not very bulky on its own. His only real ground savior is Landorus T, which on its own is an amazing mon. But once that goes down, he has a serious problem dealing with any kind of earthquake or earth power that might be coming his way. You know, Gallade Mega, it has bulk, but it's still not like you don't invest into its bulk to take on a ground type. You invest into its power, and so it's not going to last very long on its own. I see a huge ground weakness, just ground types in general kind of run through his team. So he has to like be really careful with his Landorus. And like you mentioned, I think Tapu Fini is a terrible choice for a Zmon because it just doesn't have the coverage necessary. And as for Vileplume, I mean, it has coverage. I looked at its move pool a little bit ago, and it's not bad, but it's really slow. And again, it has some bulk, but not enough bulk. And I think it'll die before it ever gets a chance to really use its Z move, any Z moves it has effectively. I don't really know of a better one in his lower tiers to use the C moves, but at the same time, I'm thinking Rabombi just because of its speed and Quiver Dance setup potential. And yeah, in his higher tiers, I think Landorus T would have been a much better option for his Z holder. Much better option.
Yeah, on what Frank was saying, he just said it. I was hoping he wouldn't, but as bad as Lando T is, I'm missing out on that. I think also missing out on Rabombi as a Z user was a travesty. Vileplume, I don't see being at all an effective Z user. Similar to Fini, it has its stab typings and maybe a few other coverage moves, but Rabombi with the Quiver Dance into like I don't know a Z Bug Buzz that can really be effective along with the web's threat. I think with adding the Z move on it, would have made his team especially harder to prep with, along with missing on the Lano T Z move.
I've been a little quiet on this one, but this is probably my second favorite team in the draft. I am a little sad about Tapu Fini over Lando as the Zmon. I like the Lando Incineroar Intimidate core, some good momentum with U-turn and Volt Switch on stuff like Lando, Incineroar, Raikou. Really just some good bulk all around. I think all of his low tier mons have some really good bulk, all those D tier with Vileplume, Dusknoir, and Steelix. The only mon that I'm a little iffy on because I feel like if you want a steel type, you're bringing Bisharp, and electric immunity, you're bringing Lando. It's getting brought, but it's still a good bulky mon to have. But this is, I think this team has the potential to go offense and defense, and big threat.
Yeah, I think it's another one of those like middle of the road teams for me personally. I really like some of the picks. I think the Zmons, like everyone said, really holds it back a little bit. Like both of them, I think they're just poorly chosen. But I will say, Landorus, of course, is probably one of the best mods in the format in the game, even so, it's going to be really good. And I will say to Kevin, Incineroar is incredible, and with Intimidate, it's even better. So it should do really well.
Okay, so in terms of ranking out of 10, what does everyone think? I'm gonna say actually probably I'm gonna say 6.5. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of this team. Like I like some individual picks, but as a whole, it's not my favorite of the teams. What does everyone else think?
I'm gonna have to go 2 points higher than that. I was thinking about a 9, but there are a lot of things that hold it back. Like Saver was mentioning, Steelix is a bit weird on this team. I can see its use, but I think it overlaps too much with key mons, and then the Z users are what really drags it down for me. But I still think overall it's an amazing team with the Raikou, Kyurem, low draft value, which is being amazing. I think he has a lot of offensive pressure.
I'm gonna go with 7 out of 10 because I mean, while it has some really good mons in it, it also has less synergy than I would like it to, and then the Z mons set it back a little bit, all that. So, I mean, it's pretty good, but it has a couple problems with it. So 7 out of 10 seems fair.
I'd give it a 6.5 just because it has a lot of good power. He has a lot of good volt turn potential, but just that ground weakness in a league format, Earthquake and Earth Power, just ground attacks are very, very the word is, but just they're very useful and very pretty much everyone wants that in a league format. And he's going to find that he has a lot of issues trying to play around that with only Lando T as the only solid resist, well, really immunity to any kind of earthquake.
I'm going a 9 for this team. I think this team is incredibly dangerous. Vileplume is going to be able to carry its weight with Strength Sap, I think. One of the best moves in the game. I'm excited to see how he uses that. With the offensive momentum, if he can keep it up, I think Mega Gallade has to be an early favorite for kill leader to it and start taking names.
I mean, Mega Glade was kill leader 2 seasons ago, so maybe we'll see a repeat of that. Seems like we're pretty divided on Kevin's team. I think the average is like 7.5 or 8, something like that. One of the two. I don't know what the exact number would be.
7.5.
All right, we'll go with that. Next team is Tony and the Columbus Liddens. He has Necrozma, Hydreigon, Thunderous Incarnate, Mega Venusaur, Empoleon, Yon Mega, Aromatisse, Nidoking, Typhlosion, Hitmonchan, and Raticate Alola. I really, really like this team. I think his high tier picks in particular, he really covered Mega Venusaur's weaknesses fairly well, which is pretty much the only thing you need to do with that thing because it's so unbelievably bulky. Just make sure you have enough Psychic and Flying resists. He has pretty good offense and pretty good setup as well, and some good hazard setters. And in terms of his low tier picks, I like Hitmonchan and Aromatisse as well as Typhlosion. Not fully set on Raticate Alola, but if it comes into a game or two and could put in some work, then that's not bad. What does everyone else think?
I think this team is going to do wonders for him this season, especially because he got some of his favorites back again. He got Necrozma, you got Yon Mega, who is going to be ridiculous this season. I'll tell you right now, it's almost broken to be in Tier C, but I don't know. A lot of it just it has that synergy that I look for, in my opinion. I think the only problem is maybe removal, I guess, because he only has like 2 like credible removers of hazards. So I think that might be the only problem I really see with this. He doesn't have Z-Mons yet, so I don't know what I would think about that, but he has very capable Mons that would be good for that, so I don't see that a problem. So yeah, I think this is a really good team.
Now that Hydreigon and Thunderous have Defog, I think it might make it a bit easier for him to keep hazards off his side of the field, plus Empoleon and also Hitmonchan with Spin.
I actually had no idea that Hydreigon got it, so
yeah, it and Thunderous got it with like the Defog move tutor in Gen 7, so he's
okay.
A few more options.
Got it.
I'm going to have to say with this draft, along with Lauren's, how they drafted a lot of similar mons from previous seasons, it only helps to be experienced with a Pokemon. And then on top of that, I think besides Raticate A, this is one of the most solid drafts overall. Like it's been said, he's a lot of balance. I think here he has enough defense and enough offense. And I mean, Necrozma is just busted if you use it right, especially with this new psychic move, and then having Defog and Hydreigon and the other mons. I'm very intrigued to see how he does with this team.
I like his team, but there are only 2 picks on his team that I'm wary of, and it's like Typhlosion and Alola and Raticate. But it's not quite that strong, nor is it quite that fast, and its moveset is pretty limited for what it can do. And as for Alolan Raticate, I mean, isn't very good. It's got what? Let me check real quick. Base attack, and just because it gets dark in normal stab doesn't really make up for the fact that it's not really that bulky, it's not really that fast, and it's not really that strong. I don't know what he can really do with it, and I kind of think it's a waste of a pick. I think I don't know what he could have chosen better, but I think he could have done better instead of going for Alolan Raticate. I think Nidoking was a solid pick just because Nidoking has a lot of interesting move coverage. Has he picked his Zmons yet, or did you guys just not highlight them, or what?
He hasn't picked
He
yet.
hasn't picked them yet.
It's all up to date, all the Z moves to when we're recording this.
He has a lot of good options like Hydreigon, Thundurus, and Nidoking as like high tier Zmons. I think Yanmega is a great low tier Zmon. I think Typhlosion could work as a low tier Zmon, but still, I don't know if it'll really work out that well because you kind of want to Scarf or Specs it if you really want it to do any good. I think having Hitmonchan, Thundurus, Hydreigon, and Empoleon is great, though at the same time, I think he's gonna I think he'll want toxic spikes up on the field, but he's gonna find himself defogging a lot more because other people have hazards on their team. I think he has a lot of solid power to be thrown around. Like Hydreigon and Necrozma are both very strong mons, along with Thundurus and etc. So I think it's a solid team overall. I just think that and Eradicate, I think those are two mons that aren't going to do him very well. Maybe Typhlosion, but especially not Eradicate. I think it's an all right draft.
I think I'm seeing a general trend here. I think I'm a little bit less of a fan of this team than a lot of people that have talked so far are. I don't love the low tiers outside of Yanmega. Typhlosion, I think, needs a little more support in terms of either speed control with webs, like that, to really be able to put in as much work as it can. I just see Necrozma as a bargain bin Mew, and with Mew on the board, I can't get behind that as the first round pick.
I
Good
think
synergy all around.
The Necrozma is like incredible. I'm not sure I share your view.
I think that Necrozma's also. I think Tony's had it like every season since, if I'm correct. I think it's just a comfort pick for him. So I would agree. I prefer Mew to Necrozma, but if I think they're similar enough that if he prefers it, it is a bit bulkier. I think also Prism Armor maybe. Then it's kind of up to him.
I'm gonna have
It's true.
to
Prism Armor.
hop along with Jared. I think Necrozma is better, especially with a lot of the newer stuff it's gotten lately. And making Prism Armor helps a lot, where knockoff would hurt Mew a lot more. Necrozma can just set up on stuff when it gets knocked off.
Oh yeah, like Prism Armor accounts for way more than you might think, especially for something that's bulky like Necrozma. So, plus it gets like Prisma Laser or whatever it's called that he's used I think like once. So yeah, that ridiculous move.
And then I forget the name of the move, the one that can switch from physical or special attack,
Full
depending on
time
stat.
geyser.
Geyser.
Okay, yeah.
Also,
Geyser.
I literally just saw this online. Apparently, Prism Armor still works even against things like Mold Breaker and Terravolt and stuff.
That's insane.
Oh shit.
So
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
that's even better. So what's everyone thinking for ranking? I'm gonna go ahead and say in the most balanced, well-rounded, and threatening teams overall, and I'm excited to see what he does with it.
I'm gonna go with another 9.5 here. I feel like I might be a little too generous with all these ratings, but I really like this team. Like it's really balanced, but with its threats, like offensive threats, they are like some of the most ridiculous ones, especially for value, like Yanmega, for example. So I think he's gonna do really well. I hope he proves me right.
On the other hand, I've been pretty non-generous, but I'm going to also give this one a 9.5. I think it's definitely one of the more solid, if not most solid teams. I love his water, fire, grass core, his dragon, dragon psychic core. I don't know. He has a lot of great Pokemon, and I think it works amazing together.
I want to give him a solid 9. It's not perfect, and I think again 2 of his picks won't do as well. But I think overall he's brought enough power, bulk, and just fluidity throughout his team that really where I'd put his team at.
I think I'm coming in at about a 7. I don't think his high tiers are dangerous enough some of the low tiers, which just don't strike me as threatening or horribly useful, honestly.
That
Because
7 hurt
everyone
my
else,
soul.
And Seafra is a contrarian.
I
My
know,
lord.
right? I thought I was
it's been really
bad.
funny.
Jeez.
It's been really funny.
My goodness.
It's like, ooh, these are the ones I like, and everyone jumps on them. It's funny.
There's always gonna be like one person in the video that like completely goes against everyone else. So
Yeah.
there you
Good
go.
to have you,
I think
Sifa.
with the 7, I think the average is about an 8.5 approximately. So moving on to the next team, it's not Tony, but it's new Tony, Huntsville Hydreigons. His team is Tyranitar, Tangrowth, Slowking, Tentacruel, Weezing, Verzion, which is his low tier Z user, Magneton, Flygon, which is his high tier Z user, Salazzle, Tauros, and Mega Altaria. I'm going to say literally nothing because I'm facing him week 1 and I don't want to trash talk his team and then lose. All I'm going to say all I'm going to say is I am not a super big fan of this team, but I wasn't a big fan of his team last season, and he went 8-4 and did really, really well. So I think he's good enough that doesn't really matter. And I wish he had another Stealth Rocker outside of just Tyranitar, because that really limits it. He has some good bulk in his Regenerator core. Mega Altaria is good. Yeah, what does everyone else think?
So
really
usually
like
you'll
his
have like a mostly comfort pick draft, and I think this one this season. I don't know if I really like it, to be honest, but I know that he knows what he's doing with that regenerator core he's got, and, everything else, wheezing, and he's got a lot of bulk, and I think that he can kind of flourish with that again, just like he did before, and I anticipate him doing that despite me not really liking his team.
I like his team just because I see weaknesses, but then I see where he has them patched up. Like water, like I know you. I like Ferrothorn and Tentacruel together because Grass, Steel, Water, Poison just kind of help balance each other out perfectly. And I see that here, like Tangrowth, Slowking, Tentacruel, Virizion together, his defensive mons really balance each other out. Like Flygon has a 4 times ice weakness, King and Tentacruel to take ice. With he has a fire weakness with Magneton and Tangrowth, but he has Slowking and Tentacruel. They have electric weaknesses, but then Tangrowth and Virizion take care of that. I think Weezing is kind of an oddball in his draft. I'm not sure what it really does for his team, but I think that's just a mon he really likes. Past that, he has good power on his team, good bulk, and I think it's a really well-balanced team that kind of fixes up a lot of the holes you initially see when you look at it.
For me,
The two things that I really like about this team, it's something interesting, dipping into the low tiers a little earlier than other people, and he came away with, in my opinion, 3 of the better low tier mons with Weezing, Virizion, and Magneton. On top of that, the Magneton and Mega Altaria, I think, could make a pretty good offensive core, especially in a division where he's going to be playing Skarmory and Celesteela twice. We could see some pretty interesting stuff there.
I'm gonna say with this team, I think it's solid. I don't know. It doesn't really jump out to me. I don't like the Weezing Tentacruel combo. I get they do different stuff, but I think Tentacruel is amazing with Rapid Spin and then Scald and Knockoff, and I don't really see the need for Weezing. I think Altaria definitely adds a ton to this team. I think it was pretty meh until that point. Although I didn't like Altaria last season, I can acknowledge it's a great mega. And I think overall it's just solid. It doesn't jump out to me though.
Okay, so I guess in terms of ratings, I'm gonna go 7.5. I agree with Carlos. This team got like way better in my mind when I saw Mega Altaria, but I still feel like 3 poison types is kind of monotonous. A lot of quad weaknesses, and also not necessarily the fastest team overall. He has setup options in terms of that, but it does kind of cap out around like the 110 mark. Because I don't really know how often Tauros is. Actually, he has Salazzle, so that's probably not super fair. I'm just gonna go 7.5. People come all up on that.
I give it a 4.
8.25. I want to give him an 8.25.
Bad.
Shit, sorry.
I'm gonna give it a 7. No comment.
I think it gets a 0.
Man, Corey, you're pretty busy right now. Are you sure you can hop in the video?
Yeah, why are you in here?
Yeah, I'm taking some time from my busy schedule. Just wanted to come in and let you guys know that my team is a 10 out of 10, but I'm too busy, so I gotta go.
Bye.
Bye. Okay.
Corey for the excellent analysis.
Did we finish all the rankings? I kind of.
No,
no.
I have 3 written down, so
Ooh, writing it down, pen and paper. Carlos.
I'm coming in at an 8 for this team. I like the balance overall, and if he can keep tempo slow, I think it's got good potential.
So looks like I'm going to be the contrarian this time. I'm going with a 5 because I don't see any balance at all, and I think while he might do well with this team, I just don't like it at all. There's too many repeating types, common weaknesses. I think it's going to be a problem, but if he's comfortable with this team, then maybe he'll be able to do it well with it.
it's okay,
Right,
Jarrett.
I'm glad someone put down 5. I'm glad someone did it. Thank you, Jarrett.
I support you with that 5,
5 on
Jarrett.
the haters.
I support you.
Thanks.
All right, Carlos. What's the average?
Among Corey coming in, I think it's a 7.15.
Yeah, Corey's opinion doesn't matter. Haha. I'm gonna be kicked as an admin. Anyways, moving on to Jarrett and the Turin Tapoos. I think that's his 7th team name or something.
Gonna hit that yeet. Okay,
Gonna
sorry.
hit that yeet. His name is Thunderous T, Latios, which is his high tier Z user, Florges, Donphan, Zoroark, Mega Blastoise, I mean Beedrill, whoops, Bronzong, Venusaur, Clawitzer, Cryogonal, and Blaziken as his low tier
I
Z.
think I actually hate Jack.
Honestly, this team really lacks a good, reliable, bulky water spinner.
I think it would help if the water type had cannons on its shoulder. I think it might make his team a bit better.
Yeah, I think War Turtle was around in the last round. So, what do you guys think?
I mean,
I like
repeating what Jack said, I faced him in the first week, so I don't want to give him a 5 and then lose to him in week 1.
Give me the lowest rating possible, Carlos, please.
A lot better after trading Druddigon for Bronzong. Honestly, Bronzong's given it that steel type that it really needed a good balanced team, and I was a little bit concerned for it not having a steel type to round out its core. But with that, I think I could see this team doing pretty well. It'd be interesting.
Jarrett's team, just because of the power it has, I think Latios, Florges, Zoroark, Mega Beedrill, Clawitzer, and Cryogonal, and Blaziken all have solid amounts of power. I think Blaziken's a little slow for what it should do, but I think with a Scarf it'll do fine. And I always love Cryogonal as a pick just because it's really underrated in terms of its bulk. It might have Shite All for physical defense, but especially it has 80 HP and 135 special defense. And I think that right there is extremely solid, especially for a Mon that's in tier D. I think with Ice Stab and Rapid Spin and Recover, it'll do. He's used it well before, and I always love that as a pick every time. I don't like Donphan at all. It's just in League format or even in normal format, like normal Showdown meta, it's just really underwhelming for what it can do. Yeah, it gets Rapid Spin and Earthquake, but kind of it's not good enough. But it's Jarrett, and he usually knows what he's doing with Pokemon, so I'm going to go ahead and trust him in knowing that what he's doing with Donphan. But past that, I think is overall pretty solid.
Would you say you're not a Dawn fan of that pick?
Oh!
Oh!
And with that, we're going to call it a video. I'd like to thank you all for
Does anyone else have anything to add for Jarrett's masterpiece? Jarrett, do you have any input yourself about your team? Anything you can say?
I'm tired of getting sniped like 12 times in a draft.
Honestly, it sounds like a
Realistically,
you problem.
It really
it
does.
is a me problem. It is, but realistically though, I'm pretty happy with the team. It's a little more offensive than I would want, but maybe it's time for a change. Time to play a little bit more hyper offense oriented. I mean, I really like my Thunder's T, of course. So
You know, if
I feel
you draft McGinnium, you can't get sniped.
I unironically drafted McGanium round 10 because I was worried someone would snipe it if I waited until round 11.
I mean, you're right. Tangela got drafted.
Volby got drafted. What's your point?
Oh,
oh
ooh.
no!
Oh!
I unironically drafted Volbeat round 10 because I was worried I was going to get sniped.
Oh! Woo! Heat.
This video went bad so quickly.
It's when Corey
All right,
joined.
Corey. Yeah.
Jarrett's pretty threatening team. He's used on DT Bejo before. Bronzong made his team like 10 times better. I'm going to go ahead and say 8 out of 10. I like the more offensive approach. I like his high tier Fairy Dragon Steel Core. And there isn't really a pick on this team that I would say is bad. Everything looks pretty solid.
I'm gonna go with a 7.5 for pretty similar reasons. Pretty solid. Well, good offense.
8.5, just because I think everything on his team is good and works well, except for the Donphin. I think yeah, an 8.5 is a good place to put it. Maybe even a 9 if he didn't have Donphin in there and something that was actually good. But we can't be perfect with our draft, so 8.5.
I'm gonna strongly disagree on the Donphan hate. It's not flashy, but it gets the job done. Sturdy is a good ability with something that gets stealth rocks. It's got really good coverage actually. Assault Vest is a cool tech. There are so few good high tier spinners that aren't trash. Not all 20 teams can get like a really good spinner. I think Donphan fits his team pretty well, honestly, all things considered.
It's exactly why I took it. I've tried to get it all 3 previous seasons, but it's always been taken from me. So I kind of tried to get it a little earlier this time. So I'm happy with it. I love Donphan, but whatever.
I'm gonna give it an 8, just on the basis it doesn't lose to Blissey.
How many times
That's what
must
you
I get
think.
triggered?
I can't wait for Blaziken to miss every high jump kick it goes for.
Same.
How
I'd
do I
say
ban
average
someone in a
is-
Discord server?
Average is about like an 8 or an 8.5. Moving on to Chabin of the Irvine Igglybuffs. His team is Weavile, Garchomp, which is his high tier Z user, Skarmory, Jolteon, Vaporeon, Gramble, Dragalge, Magmortar, Blissey, Hitmonlee, which is low tier Zmon, and Sceptile. I really like this team. It's got really good offense in its higher tier picks with things like Weavile, Jolteon, and Garchomp. With the Skarm Bliss Ramble core, even Dragalge, which pairs really nicely with Blissey and Skarm, taking electric fire and fighting moves, is really good. Same thing with Vaporeon too, which pairs with that core really well. Honestly, this is overall one of my favorite drafts personally. What does everyone else think?
I love his draft. I mean, it's got power, it's got bulk, and it has Blissey. And I know I'm a big fanboy for Blissey, team especially. I saw what he was matched up against, and I think Blissey will do him a lot of good just in terms of being able to wall special attackers. I think in terms of power, he has a solid amount. Like, Dragalge has the strongest Draco Meteor in the game because of adaptability. Granbull's bulky, has a lot of strength. Vaporeon super bulky, can act as a fighter and a wall. Jolteon's fast and strong. Skarmory's bulky. Garchomp can function as a fighter or a wall. Weavile is super fast and super strong. I think Hitmonlee, I don't know. I have been a better Z holder, but at the same time, I think Hitmonlee will do just fine because it does have a diverse move pool. I love Sceptile as a last pick just because of its intense speed that it gets. His draft is extremely well balanced, and I think that I think all the holes that it would have are all patched up by everything that he has.
I have to say, whenever you draft multiple evolutions, it's an amazing team. Overall, there aren't many bad picks on this team, and when you're facing someone like Jack, you just gotta beat Chabin to win. So I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, I think this team's got a lot of power on it. Like, I don't know, Weavile it's probably one of my favorite tier 1 mons, just based on like extreme offensive ability alone. Garchomp's super good. I used it last season. Maybe it was 2. I think it was last season though. Skarmory, great wall. I mean, his entire team is super balanced. He picked up one of the best tier D mons in Magmortar, for value anyway. I can't see much wrong with this team. I'm kind of looking at like hazard removal and seeing there's like one, but it's a really good one, so it's not so bad. So I think Chabin will have a very, very good time with this team this season. Definitely beat Jack both times.
For sure.
Yeah, he'll definitely kick my ass a few times. He has Hitmonlee to spin also.
I am disappointed after the last time he drafted. He drafted, what, 8 hazard removers, so it's definitely a step down from that.
This is my week 1 opponent, so I am gonna trash him and then pay for it. It's a solid draft. My one problem with it is I think Hitmonlee is not a great Z holder. Not running vest or scarf. I'd want to see it running a consumable item so it can get that unburdened boost. Biggest problem I have with this team, which says a lot.
Yeah, I think Sceptile may have actually been a better option because it has Swords Dance. It could use Leaf Storm to have like a powerful grass move without dropping a special attack. And I echo what Frank said with Sceptile, I think being one of the sleeper tier D picks because of its great speed and coverage. If I was considering getting it, but I went with something else, Meganium, just because it was a bit bulkier and I wanted that. But I really do like Sceptile in this format. So in terms of rankings, what's everyone thinking? I'm honestly going to say 9. Just a really, really solid draft. I really don't see many issues or common weaknesses at all.
I'm gonna go with 9 as well.
I go with 9 as well. Like, not a lot of picks were really wasted on this draft, and it just looks overall really solid. Got a lot of power, honestly.
Yeah, 9 for me as well. I think one of the bigger problems, as he said, or as Sifra said, was his low tier Zmon. I actually think Magmortar would have been really cut out for it, personally. But other than that, I can't see a lot of faults in his team other than the only one Mon with hazard removal. But I could see someone bringing Skarmory like every week. So I think he'll definitely do really, really well with his team. Wouldn't be surprised.
I'm going to also have to give it a 9. Amazing team. Yeah.
Gonna be contrarian here and give it the 8.5. So we're dragging down the average a bit, but it's a good team. Not much to say besides that.
9.5, just because I mean, again, I think he wasn't a good choice for his low tier mon. All his team is just so solidly well balanced that it won't be too much of a drag. Again, I think Magmortar would have been better for Z holder, but overall, I think it's a really solid draft. I think it deserves a 9.5, and that's also because I'm biased because I really like Blissey, but you know, it's still good regardless of Blissey.
All right, looks like about 9 is for this team. So kudos to Chabin. Good to have him back season 7, and it's a really good draft. Moving on to Gaiden and the Green Bay Slackings? I don't know. First, Slakings. There you go.
Slackings, come on. Oh my goodness. He's slacking. He's a slacker, you know?
Bruh.
Like slacking. He's slacking off.
He's slacking off.
I'm Ray. Sorry.
Okay. All right. First pick, he has Zygarde, which is his high tier user. Diancie, Suicune, Registeel, Emboar, Decidueye, Crobat, Mandibuzz, Lickilicky, Rotom Frost, which is his low tier Z user, and Exploud. I like this team. I can kind of see his thought process going very early on for the Fire, Water, Grass, Fairy, Dragon, Steel Core, which is usually a pretty consistent way to start a draft. He did kind of stack up on a few ice weaknesses after that, though, with both Crobat and Mandibuzz. I really like Lickilicky as a tier D pick that's super bulky and I can wish pass and things like Suicune and Registeel. And Mega Diancie is really good with speed. What was everyone else's thoughts?
I think this team can be pretty scary. If he has a lot of just nice Pokemon all around. I think Emboar can be just terrifying if you don't have a solid fire or fighting type switch in. And that's just one of his tier C's. I think his tier A's were all home runs. And I like the overall chemistry of this team. I could see it. I mean, he has a ton of defoggers, which is nice. And Suicune is just amazing. I love this team.
The only problem I see with this is the low tier electric type. I feel like he could have gotten a much better one way earlier instead of Rowan Frost. I also feel like it being a Zmon instead of, say, Exploud and Boar is a poor choice. But I really love this team. Zygarde, Diancie are two of my favorites in the top tier. Suicune is easily my favorite water type. Emboar has zero switch-ins. This team is really good, really offensive in my opinion, but it has the bulk that it needs. So I think he'll do really, really, really good.
I think the one niche of Rotom Frost is he did have a bunch, mainly I guess Crobat and Mandibuzz, and Bolt Beam coverage is really good, just in general in Pokemon. So something that can abuse it. It kind of gives Rotom Frost a bit of a niche. So I can kind of see where he was going with that pick.
Rotom Frost doesn't get Ice Beam; it gets Blizzard.
I know, but like it's still like people use Hurricane and Focus Blast a lot, and he has is a Z user, so we can use ICM Z, one really accurate Blizzard. Again, like it's a tier D pick, so at the end of the day, it's not a big deal. There's 20 teams, not everyone's gonna get good tier Ds. I just think Bolt Beam is really good coverage, like Electric Ice is what I mean. So that could potentially be good in a few matchups.
I would say for the first 7 rounds of this draft, I was really excited because no one drafted Mandibuzz, and then he picked up Mandibuzz, and now I'm really angry because it's a really annoying Pokemon, and I'm gonna hate facing this team.
I will say,
I like his.
Zebstrika was still sitting there. I don't understand why he left it on the board.
Substrike has a special attack stat of 80.
Your mom has a special attack set of 80.
Oh!
Holy shit.
I've been cyberbullied.
His team has a lot of good bulk, and I like that about it. I mean, Registeel and Suicune are both insanely bulky Pokemon. I think they'll serve him well. I like and hate Zygarde because I think Thousand Arrows is a bullshit move, but in the end, in the league format, I think it'll do him a lot of good. A solid speed tier and a solid amount of power. Emboar, Decidueye both have good bulk. I like Crobat because of its speed, but I think it needs a setup move to really do well. Like, it gets Nasty Plot, I think, but I don't think it gets Swords Dance. Attack power is just kind of, it's subpar at 90, which isn't bad, but it isn't great. I think Mandibuzz is a solid late round pick at like round 11. I like Lickilicky because while I kind of view Lickilicky as kind of a low grade Blissey, it's still really good because Blissey itself is really good. Rotom Frost being the Z holder, because usually on Rotom, what you want is you want to have like an item like Specs or Scarf. You know, you want it to do a fast Volt Swish or a trick. It would have been a lot better of a choice just because Exploit has an insanely diverse special move pool, and I think it would have benefited a lot more being able to utilize that with Z moves. I think the bulk of the team is really solid. Like, he has a lot of bulk on there. Lickilicky, Mandibuzz, Decidueye, Emboar, Registeel, Suicune. Like, and Zygarde can run defensive too, so it's like he definitely has a bulky team that'll be hard to break through if he plays it right.
I feel like Xploud's not really a good Z user because Boom Burst isn't like Normalium Z is not that much stronger than Boom Burst, especially when you consider specs. And Xploud clicks Boom Burst 90% of the time, anyways. Maybe Embor is a Z user, but again, like that thing doesn't really need it. So this team really reminds me of Carlos's Season 5 team, so I kind of expect him to lose in finals.
I'm gonna have to agree to
Yeah.
that. Except if I recall, I dropped Zygarde almost after the first week, so yeah.
Still have no idea why you did that.
Bro, it's a bad Pokemon.
Did anyone else have anything to add?
I feel like a little bit of this draft was wasted picking Registeel and Emboar so early on. Like, I feel like you could have secured a few stronger like tier B picks. Like, I can't think of anything in particular right now. I think Decidueye and Crobat aren't like the top tier picks in tier B. I mean, he was lucky to pick up Crobat. I think it's pretty good, but I think securing some better Bs would have been better, and maybe like not Suicune, because I think Suicune isn't that much better than a lot of the waters throughout pretty much every single tier, and I don't know a lot that it does over a lot of the other options, so I don't think it needed to have such a high priority in this draft.
That's kind of what I was going to say about Mandibuzz, too. Compared to the other tier A's, like, I know it's bulky, but I feel like it lacks a bit in that regard.
Boo.
Carlos, you're bad.
Yeah.
Carlos is the only person who likes exclusively bulky Pokemon, so like you can just disregard his opinion.
Yeah.
Whoever's watching this video.
Carlos
Hello?
Umbreon, Cresselia, Dusclops.
Huh? I drafted Scissor Keldeo. I don't know what you're talking about.
Carlos like plays every season like exclusively to get like the new turn record every like season by season. Like he just tries to up his own record. Like I don't understand.
He gonna go past mine.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and give this team an 8. A few flaws, but solid overall. I could see him doing really well with that.
I would agree with that. I think it deserves an 8 just because, like, I think he has a lot of power and a lot of bulk, even though I mean, he has speed on there, but I think he doesn't have enough of it. But he does have setup in Zygarde to get B faster. 8 would be a fair rating to give it.
I'm gonna have to give it an 8 also. I like it better than an 8, but I think with some of its flaws, you gotta give it an 8.
I think an 8 is what I would give it to.
Yeah, I agree with what Carlos just said. It gets an 8 because it's probably better, but has some weaknesses that set it back further.
All right, looks like we'll go ahead with 8 as an average. Moving on to Brian and the Boston Breelooms. His team is Tapu Bulu, Heatran, Greninja, Como-O as his high tier Z user, Mega Pidgeot, Nidoqueen, Heliolisk, Mesprit as his low tier Z user, Comfey, Frostlass, and then some random tier D fish. I really, really like this team. I think honestly it's very solid overall. He looks like he prioritized getting like good high tier cores, and he's a good mix of speed tiers, hazard setters, and I really like his Z users too. So I love Como-O. I think it's very underrated, especially with all the new moves it got in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. What does everyone else think?
I mean, Luminion's just sitting there. Yeah. I think it has some good offensive pressure, definitely. I think it's a good Brian team. It's not my favorite team, but he'll do good with it.
All right, well, I just like to talk about how I built this team personally. I really wanted to prioritize building power and bulk. So if we just go through this draft, first pick, Tapu Bulu, power, bulk. Heatran, power, bulk. Ninja, power. Como-O, power and bulk. Pidgeot, mega, power. Nidoqueen, a little bit of both. A little power, a little bulk. Heliolisk, a lot of power. I mean, I think you guys get the gist at the end of this.
Where does
a lot of power.
Come into the power bulk section? Which one does that fall under?
At some point, I got lazy and I just wanted another defogger,
Why don't you get Jump Love?
Not enough power, dude. Not enough power. Jumpluff only reaches like 50 attack, and Luminion hits that high 69. So like you got that perfect 69 attack stat, pumping out power, throwing off those power Aqua Tails. It's just a disgusting Pokemon, and Carlos is gonna get swept by Luminion, and I'm calling it now.
Disgusting 69 Pokemon. What were you talking about?
Disgusting amount of power.
Luminion. Disgusting.
I will say Luminion definitely has the power.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
So,
Frank,
So-
tell us about Luminion's disgusting power.
What? Hear you.
Tell us about Luminion's disgusting power.
Luminion. I don't really know that Pokemon. Sucks. Jesus. What is the... Wait, did Brian pick Luminion?
Yes.
Yeah, I did.
Brian just search Control F, U-turn, tier D.
Why would you waste your pick like that? Were you high when you made this pick?
The SBL
Like-
does not condone drug usage.
Were you
Jokes.
high?
I don't
on
condone
picks?
drug usage. I'm a very pure man, and I just like Luminion. I think it's a pretty Pokemon.
The SBL
And
is
it's got-
a Christian
it's got
Minecraft
U-turn.
server.
Yeah, this is a
Yeah.
pure
Were you
wholesome
high?
league.
Were you high when you picked Wigglytuff, Frank?
Oh.
Huh?
First round.
Ooh.
Yeah, maybe. I think.
We do not condone drug usage.
Brian, why did you pick Luminion? I want to hear this, actually. What does it do?
It's got defog, it's got U-turn, and it's got Scald, and that's really all you can really ask for in a water type. It's got some momentum, it's got a 100% chance burn in Scald, and it's got defog. It's a pretty simple Pokemon, and it's got its niche. It's very fast.
Not even
Very
that
strong.
fast, though. It's 91 speed, it's got 69 HP, 86, 76 defenses. It's not good. I guess U-turn and defog make it useful. Having more than 2 hits, like I don't. Besides anything it just resists because of water, it's not going to do well. Anything that hits it neutrally or specially effectively is just not good. It's not going to live very often. Train, so I guess you could like abuse that to try and make it worthwhile. But you know, I trust in you to use it well.
Alternatively, I could not use it at all. That's very possible, and I might end up doing that. We'll see.
Should
Hi
You should
everyone,
use
and I'm glad I got to hear the greatest Pokemon of all time getting defended by Brian.
Thank you.
Looking at Brian's team, I think I didn't even realize he picked Luminion last, but I think overall it's solid. I mean, power. That's the first thing I noticed. He's got Heatran, Tapu Bulu, Greninja, Kamo-O, Mega Pidgeot, Heliolisk. He's got Mesprit. Mesprit, the powerful one. I forget. No, Mesprit's not. Never mind. He's got a good Spiker and Frostlass. It's really fast. It's got Ghost, Ice Stab. Comfy has the Priority Fairy or whatever. I think his draft is actually really good, especially the first, 10 picks. After that, I think Comfy and Frostlass are good. Mesprit's all right. It does well in PU. At least I think it's still in PU. And then Luminion, I think, is just kind of a waste. But, you do you, Brian. You do you.
Thanks, man.
Does anyone else have anything they wanted to add?
I really fucking like this team other than Luminion. He has probably the best Firewater Grass core in his first 3 picks, in my opinion. And I see no reason not to bring every one of them pretty much every week. So,
Exposed.
really like the drafts. One of my favorites, probably.
Bulu, Heatran, Luminion, best Firewater Grass.
Really,
core.
though, it's busted.
69 HP.
69 attack. Come on, man.
Frank said HP. Frank lied.
I'm going to give this team a 9 out of 10, jokes aside, because outside of Luminion, I really like every single other pick on a team, and I love the synergy and such. And if you're going to have a questionable, risky pick, I mean, it's a tier D, it doesn't really matter. We have picks anyways.
I'm gonna follow up with an 8.5. Mainly because Comfy isn't there to sweep him anymore, so I think he'll do good with it.
I honestly think this is the best draft the SBL has ever seen. So I'm gonna have to give this one a 10 out of 10. Shoutouts to Brian. Like, this is a really great team. Like, lots of power, lots of ball. Best squad I've ever seen.
The record books sees that as a 9.5. That's what it's been graded from that response.
So it's a 10 for me.
A 9. I give it a 9 because actually a 9.5 because every single pick on here is solid except Luminion. But besides that, even with Nesprit, I think it's definitely a 9.5.
So I'm gonna go with the 9. Like I said, I really like this team. Not really many flaws with it. It's really good. So yeah.
All right, so looks like we're agreeing on Carlos. What are we saying out of 10?
Power out of 10.
It really is.
It's a powerful draft out of 10. There you go. Next up, we're moving on to Jick of the Toronto Raptors. His team is Jirachi, Doug Trio, Sylveon, Mega Blastoise, Tornado Therian, which is my high tier Z user, Silvally, Blacephalon, Piloswine, Hariyama, the dinosaur from A Land Before Time, and Finneguz, which is the low tier Z user. This team's pretty bad.
Yes.
I expect to lose Chavin a few times. I expect to lose Noah a few times. And I expect Blacephalon to never do anything. And I really like Meganium. I don't know what to say about my own drafts.
I have to say, round 2, I think Gothitelle might have helped this team, but I think Guzzlord really saves it.
Like your team, Jack. It's just I don't. Piloswine and Doug Trio. I think in league history, Piloswine has done a very poor job of doing the job it's supposed to do, which is be a wall. And I don't know if it'll actually do the kind of like job that you need it to do. I don't like Silvally as a pick, and I know you guys argued with me over this before, but I still think Silvally is just a shite pick to begin with. I think it's got a really limited move pool, and it does have that little niche.
What?
It has that stupid, I forget what the move is called, but it has that stupid little niche move that lets it use any type. At 95, it's at 95 speed, so it's kind of, I mean, comparatively to what a lot of speed is needed in the league, it's not the fastest. So I think it's not going to be worthwhile, but you're Jack, and usually you make a pick worthwhile regardless. I don't think Piloswine will do well, but I think the rest of them are good. I'm excited to see you use Meganium because that's my favorite evolutionary line of Gen 2. And as for Guzzlord, I don't have much faith in Guzzlord. I think the thing sucks, and I think that, I mean, you might use it well, maybe, but I think it just sucks overall. So I think besides that, though, you have a good draft.
I'm gonna guzz all over the haters.
Jack, I love your team, but it sucks.
Yeah.
Yo, who's talking shit?
I am talking shit.
I can't
Me
tell
too.
who anyone.
Let's go.
You all
It's
sound the
me,
same.
Brian. I'm just talking shit because I'm mean.
Brian, you're bad. You drafted Luminion.
Ooh.
Your whole team is a Luminion draft, dude.
Ooh.
That's your whole draft.
So my whole team is absolute power.
I don't know. I think your team's a little lacking in power, but it's overall a solid squad.
Yeah, I mean,
I actually love this team. I think it's super fun. Going to be really fun to use for him. I actually really like the Guzzlord pick because, you know, no one's used it, and I want to see what it's capable of in somebody that knows how to play this game really well, if I'm talking seriously. And also, I hate you because you took Blastoise. But Piloswine, I don't see the criticism from Frank. I also don't see the criticism from Frank for Silvally, which has an amazing move pool, in my opinion. So I think you're going to do well as always, but you're going to lose in finals to me. So,
Bro, I drafted Meganium. You think I'm making finals?
I'll take another serious. Got it. By the way, Noah, I just got here, so if you haven't heard from me before. And the theme is I don't see enough power, as I clearly have heard before. I mean, I really like your synergy and a lot of types, but I feel like as far as breaking through teams with really tough defensive cores, a wall breaking potential with this team.
That's kind of why I put Z-Moves on Twitter, just because I feel like in a lot of matchups that will probably be one of my like main breakers. Then I guess Blacephalon too, because it can be a cleaner late game with Beast Boost, but it also does hit very hard. Plus, I love Spec Sylveon. That's been like a flagship set I've ran. So, I mean, overall for my team, this probably isn't my best draft, but
It's definitely
like
your worst.
it's probably no. Have you seen my season 1 team? No.
But
Honestly, I really just want to have fun with this team, so I tried a lot of things that I have never tried before, and maybe it'll flop, but I'm really excited to use it. And even just building for my first week already, I like my options. It's just going to be if I can I have a lot of Pokemon I think that are either like haven't really been used or they've been used in the past not very well. Like I guess Piloswine or Silvally, no one's used Blacephalon before, and no one's even actually used Mega Blastoise before. So I think my goal, not only my goal, but I'm gonna see if I can take some of these lesser used picks and make something good of them. Is kind of my goal.
that's pretty cool. But when you started to say Spec Sil, I thought you were going to go with Spec Sil Volley, and that would have been the greatest thing ever.
Oh, believe me, Specs Hyper Voice Silvally is coming.
Against me, I would love that.
I really don't like the criticisms of Piloswine not being used well. I think the Mamoswine, Piloswine core I drafted last season was like beyond immaculate. So like I don't really know where this criticism's coming from, but I hope you use it well.
I just want Piloswine because my only ground type was Dougie, which doesn't actually want to switch into anything. And also, I mean, it's a ground type that resists ice, and it gives me another Stealth Rock, which I didn't really have much of.
And he also got wish support for Philosine, so say what you want about it. I mean, Violite, 100 base HP stats. It's really bulky. And I mean, with Sylveon, potential Jirachi wishing, that thing's not dying unless you hit it with super effective moves, basically.
All right, so what does everyone want to give for rankings?
I'm gonna give this one a 3.
Ooh.
I'm giving it. I think I want to give it a 7.5 because I don't know. I think that there are some bad picks, but I think there are a lot of good picks. I'm not sure how well balanced that makes this draft out to be. And I think, again, I think people mentioned power, but I think there is a good enough amount of power on this team. So I think a 7.5 or an 8 would be a good rating for it.
At 8, I mean, that's exactly the range I was thinking of. Maybe boost it to 8 because I'm a Ganium pick because it's the greatest meme mod of all time. But 7.5, 8.
I'm just out here beating into memes. It's season 7. What do you want me to do?
I
Been here
will.
almost 3 years. Give me a break.
So I'm gonna go a little higher with my rating. I'm gonna go with a 9 because I love this team. I love the use of picks that just haven't been used really, especially Guzzlord because I actually don't think it's that bad. It just has some weaknesses that aren't very good and it's slow. But other than that, it has good coverage, decent bulk, decent attack stats. So I feel like if anyone's gonna use it well, it's gonna be Jack, and I look forward to seeing that.
Guzzlord's weaknesses also weren't really common team outside of ice. Like the only other fairy weakness I had was Hariyama. Not really fighting weak at all, dragon weak. So I figured it wouldn't be like a big type overlap weakness. I did want an extra fire electric or grass electric weaknesses to help pair with Blastoise. Or resistances, I mean.
Right.
I'm gonna give it a 8. I will say if you are struggling, you can watch season 2 for how to use Hariyama, but solid team overall.
That's right, Carlos.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a page out of Carlos' books and run Charm, Stoutland, and Berries every week.
You better.
Moving on to the Season 6 champion, the Menace himself, Dennis. Don't even need to read his team because it's the same one as the past 3 seasons, but he's got Mega Metacham, Gengar, Darmanitan, Galvantula, Kartana, Alolan Ninetales, Seismitoad, Skuntank, Gourgeist, Raptor, and Regigigas. He hasn't picked his Z-move users yet. It's pretty much what Dennis has been using, just a lot of Volturn mixed with setup and very, very powerful wall breakers and things like Mega Metacham, Gengar, Darmanitan, and Staraptor. He's pretty much shown that he can consistently make playoffs and do well with his team, so I feel like I don't even have much to say. I feel like he's just going to do very well with it.
Because of how powerful it is. I mean, you have Mega Metacham, you have Gengar, you have Darmanitan, you have Kartana, Raptor. Like, those mons are super strong, especially in a league format. They have good speed on them too. I think Galvantula, being a web setter, is one of the best you can use in a league format. I'm never fond of Ninetales, but I think he's used it well. And like Jack said, like, he manages to get into playoffs, and last season he won. So regardless of whether I have like any kind of issues with a pick, I think he'll do well with it regardless. I'm not sure why he chooses Regigigas. I don't remember him ever using it well. I remember him using it, but at the same time, I don't know, maybe he'll use it this time.
I don't know. I remember getting thundered by Regigigas, and I just wasn't a pleasant experience. That thing scars me. So that thing's a threat.
Man, Brian, your first game against Dennis last season is probably like my favorite game to watch because it's just an amazing mess.
There was one game, I think a few seasons ago, where we agreed to use a random number generator to pick which mons we used. It was a pretty fun game.
Oh no.
I think along the lines of his team is that a team like this, it's going to be a nightmare to try to check defensively. Like, there is almost no possible team in this draft that can, check Mega Metacham, Gengar, and all those Kartana, all those threats, knowing, saying, I have a switch in. You're going to have to, it's just going to have to change the way a lot of the players play in this game. The only ways to beat a team like this is practically go hyper offense, because he can break through any type of wall core you have, and you're going to have to try to almost out-muscle him to beat him, and it's going to be very tough to prep for.
I'm going to echo that because that's pretty much what I tried to do last season. I got smacked. I tried to build for Dennis the same way I'd build for an average team, like have checks to his offensive Pokemon, kind of like a balanced, bulky offense core, and it just did not work. I could not keep things like Mega Metacham from just getting a kill every time it came in. And with things like Galvantula, with webs, which are so good against offensive teams in particular, as I said before, he's using a strategy that's worked for them consistently for 3 or 4 seasons now, and I think he's very comfortable using what he has on his team.
I mean, he's got one Stealth Rocker, I believe, unless Regigigas learns Rocks, and have hazards, but it practically doesn't matter with a team like this. He's going to pressure you so much that, don't have the time to sit back and recover. Those hazards are practically not going to matter just because he's going to apply so much offensive pressure to you.
He doesn't really use hazards as much as he uses webs and Aurora Veil anyways.
Yeah, I found when I've played him in the past, with this sort of team, every turn counts. If you're wasting turns against this team, you're just going to get picked apart by his. Whenever he gets a chance to get in something strong, he'll just blast your Pokemon back. If you watch the games he plays, they're 17 turns, at most usually. And it's just a testament to how he builds this team to just tear apart pretty much every defensive strategy you can possibly think of.
Does anyone else have anything else they wanted to
add? Just look at any season before this video, and that'll be my grade.
Yeah, I was gonna say, honestly, this is pretty much the same team he's drafted in a while. I mean, I guess I go 8.5 or even a 9, just because it's a bunch of familiar faces with things new but fill similar roles. Staraptor will probably be similar to, I don't know, Landorus T as just a wall breaker or something like that. It's Dennis. He's a champion. He's really good. He'll probably just do really well again, honestly.
9. I mean, because on paper, there are some flaws, but the way he builds and the way he plays, he gets around that so successfully. So with that insane power,
I'm gonna have to echo the previous two. I'll give it probably a 9. His offensive pressure is insane, even without Landers this year or this season. It's still just Mega Metacham alone is nearly impossible to deal with, and then Webs and Aurora Vale and everything else. Even with Regigigas, it's an amazing team.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with. Okay. I'm going to give it an 8.5 just because I think he could have used those extra 10 points to maybe promote one of his Pokemon to like a better, be even more threatening. But overall, it's still a disgustingly good squad, and it's definitely something I'm not looking forward to play against.
I give it a 9 out of 10 just because of the pure raw power he's bringing. I mean, he has some bulk on there, and his bulk does have some issues, but overall, amount of power he brings in a game will just make up for anything regarding that. So yeah, I think especially if he gets webs up and makes everyone else slower, like his team is just and he deserves a 9 out of 10.
All right, so it looks like we're all pretty much on the same page of Dennis, sort of like 8.5, 9 out of 10 range. Moving on to the next team, Noah and the Valley Phantoms. His team is Celesteela, which is his high tier Z user, Clefable, Megalodios, Sarina, Hippowdon, Feraligatr, Stoutland, Lycanroc Dusk, which is his low tier Z user, Rotom, Pangoro, and Exceligor. I'm super excited for Noah to be back because he has historically been one of the best players in this league. And his draft, I was kind of curious to see how he would draft considering he's been away for a few seasons, but I think it's one of the best overall. He started off with a really good Fairy Dragon Steel Core. He paired it with some good breakers of things like Feraligatr and Pangoro, as well as Lycanroc Dusk, which especially as Z moves and Swords Dance could be an effective Pokemon. He has Sand with Hippowdon Stellan, which is great, and Exceligor is a really good pick overall because now it has both Toxic Spikes and Spikes, so it can be a good habit setter for his team. So I really like it. What does everyone else think?
I'm gonna have to agree. For those who don't realize, this is Noah, the champion of season 1 and 2. So, like Jack was saying, I was intrigued to see what he'd pick, and it's just an overall amazing chemistry team. I don't think there's anything really wrong with it. I love Stoutland, especially in Sand. It's just an amazing mon. And if you ever have the opportunity to run Scarf, Charm, T-Wave, it's OP.
I'll make sure to bring against you, Carlos.
Like his team, I mean, his Fairy Dragon Steel Core is just so bulky. It's so brutal. I think it's just going to be a really difficult for any team to deal with. I think Latias, just those 3 mons together really round each other out well. I think Serena's a good choice just because of because again, it gets rapid spin, and on top of that, it can actually threaten out any kind of defoggers or spinners against it because it actually has a lot of forward power and bulk. I don't know. I feel like maybe I think Pangoro is slow and better as a Z crystal holder just because it has a lot more diverse move pool than Lycanroc does. Celesteela is a fine Z crystal holder. I prefer Clefable, but at the same time, Celesteela is perfectly fine to use. I like his bulk. I like his overall damage and setup potential. I think it's a very solid and very draft.
I'll take I'll go into what I was doing while building this team. So of how Dennis usually builds, and obviously this might not necessarily be as effective as it was seasons 1 and 2 because of Z moves, but I like to beat you with bulk. And anything that had offensive capability to also be available as a defensive mon. I mean, you look at my Fairy Dragon Steel Core, they're all insanely bulky, but they can all be win conditions. I think along with that bulk, I wanted to build a team that had going into a particular game, you don't know what my win condition could be. I might steal a Combine Clef, Combine Laddie. I could have a Samrush Stoutland, Sweeper Lycanroc, for Alligator. As an opponent prepping for that, you're going to have to guess what win condition I'm going to bring and prep around that. There are definitely a few big weaknesses of this team. I'm very weak to ice. Ice kind of runs through my team. And I'm also a little physically based attacking. And those are pretty major flaws that I'll have to build around, but overall, I'm pretty happy with what I've built here.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to just to add on. I think his Z users were pretty perfect choices. I could see an argument for Stoutland or Pangoro, but Stila Stila as a Zmon is just insane. Its move pool is busted, and if used right, it can just be an amazing offensive and defensive mon. No one wants to run into Leech Seed on a Steel type, and then flying paired with Steel is it's amazing.
Yeah, overall, it's just a pretty generally hard team to get around. There's a lot of bulk and a lot of threat on a lot of the Pokemon, so it just it becomes very difficult to prepare for everything, especially because they're all hard to take down, but also can put a lot of pressure back onto your team. So it's really going to be a pretty hard team to play against, and we'll see how a lot of the teams here can handle it.
Anything else anyone has to add?
We want to move on to just rankings for the team. I'm gonna go ahead and probably say 8.5. I just really solid sort of balanced squad. No real big glaring weaknesses. I love how many hazard options he has for setting, and I just really like this draft.
I think I'm gonna give it a 8.75. It's almost a 9, but I think that's about where it falls.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with 8.5 with Jack. Yeah.
I want to give it a 9. I want to give it a 9 because the defensive core and just knowing that it's Noah, I can see a reason behind every single one of these Pokemon. So I think it's deserving of a 9.
This is good for me. I think there are definitely some weaknesses, but I'm pretty happy with the power and the bulk that I have.
All right, so looks like we'll be settling on like an 8.5 average, I think. Gonna move on to Robert and the Carson Rhydons. He has Mega Scizor, Reuniclus, Toxapex, Sneasel, Whimsicott, Tyrantrum, which is his high tier Z user, Moltres, which is his low tier Z user, Hitmontop, Golurk, Tangela, and Zebstrika. Overall, he left 30 points on the board, so he could have taken one of tier Ds and actually had a tier A instead, which I think is kind of a big missed opportunity for him. His team isn't bad. He has some good picks, although his drafting order was kind of weird. It was odd seeing Sneasel go as early as round 4, for example. I do think he has some good picks in his high tier core of Mega Scizor, Reuniclus, Toxapex is really nice. I'm really excited to see Moltres too, because I think it's kind of a sleeper offensive threat. But overall, I'm not super sure about some of his lower tier picks, and I feel like he left a lot to be desired considering how many points he left on the board. What does everyone else think?
I think that it's an alright draft. I'm not a fan of Tyrantrum being his Z user, but at the same time, I don't really see a better Pokemon in his top tier picks. I think Reuniclus might have been a better option for Z holder, but at the same time, my issue with both of those is that they're very slow. I think that with Reuniclus, he has the option to run a very solid Trick Room team, so I think that would make Tyrantrum even better. I know Tyrantrum gets Dragon Dance, but even after a Dragon Dance, it starts off with base 71 speed, so it's not going to think it would need to. I like Hitmontop with Intimidate and Rapid Spin. I think, like Jack mentioned, he could have had a better A tier mon instead of having a Tangela. It's just a really dumb choice in general. I mean, again, Eviolite is Eviolite, and I don't like that on a draft league. But at the same time, he could have. There's better grass mons I think he could have gotten by the end. I always find Zebstrika to be really poor. It's super limited in its move pool, and while it has power and it has good speed, it's just so limited in what it can do. I think it's just going to kind of work as well as he wants it to. But a big thing about it is that it's slow, and that's kind of what I see on this team. He has some very slow Pokemon. I think Moltres is a great option, although it is weak to rocks. It has a lot of forward power to bring. Past that, I don't like Toxapex, and I only say that because in a league format, it's really easy to play around. It's a super passive Pokemon, and all it will really takes is a taunt to shut it down. And it can hold Mental Herb, I guess, but you really want it to be holding like Black Sludge so it can recovery. But even so, I think in a league format, Toxapex kind of underperforms. I like his Mega. His Mega has a lot of power. I think Scizor Mega is one of the better Megas you can choose. I like Reuniclus, and Sneasel's all right. He needs it to do. I think it'll do fine enough. I'm not a fan of Whimsicott, but at the same time, it is very fast. Past that, I think, his draft isn't really that great to begin with. I think it has good picks, but I think it has a lot of poor picks, and I don't think it all works together very well.
Yeah, I think. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
You can go, Jack.
I was going to say one quick thing. I disagree with Tyrantrum being a poor Z-move user.
One.
I really like it because any Dragon type with a Z-move can use like Outrage, for example, with Dragonian Z, which is really good because it's so powerful and you avoid getting locked in. And Tyrantrum also has really, really good coverage. And if Dragon Dance is too slow, it also does get Rock Polish if you don't really need just the offensive boost. You just want more speed. So that could also be good to say as like a late game cleaner if you just need something to outspeed the rest of the opponent's team. That's all I want to say. I actually do like Tyrantrum a lot as a user.
So I think there's a couple things that stand out about this team that kind of drag it down a little bit. I think one of the main things is if you're going to pick a mon like Toxapex, and I see what he was trying to do is building that regenerator core with Reuniclus and Toxapex, you've got to have something that synergizes really well with it. To electric types, you got to have your checks to ground types. I don't see a ton of them. Ground immunity is Moltres, which, slaps Stone Edge on something and that's dead. Have great synergy, and as well as his only ground immunity being Golurk. I don't know off the top of my head if Zebstrika gets like Motor Drive or something, but that synergy with Toxapex. And like Frank said, it is very passive and can be abused. And one other thing is that his speed tiers are really easy to build around because, he's got Moltres, which is base 90 speed, and then he doesn't have a base 100. Everything's either really slow or really fast. Sneasel, Whimsicott, Zebstrika. You've got that massive gap. So you're going to have Pokemon that, that can run Adamant instead of Jolly, blah, 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 or stuff like that, just because he's got that massive speed gap, which will be easy to build around.
Yeah, just to hop on what Jack said earlier and a bit of what Noah said, I think Tyrantrum's an amazing mon, highly underrated and very hard to switch into. But overall as a team, I really don't like this team. I'd say Toxapex is definitely hard to use in League especially without support like I think he lacks on this team. There's just a lot of mons that are just questionable, and then with the 30 points left on the board, there are very little positives for anything past the top 3 mons.
Did anyone else have anything else they wanted to add? All right. In that case, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 6. Compared to all the other teams I've seen so far, especially like 5 or 6, I haven't really been a big fan of this team. It has a lot of flaws or just kind of question marks. I really like Noah's point also about the speed tier gap because that is a big thing in prep. It makes him way easier prep. And I think with free agency maybe, especially because he has 30 points left to use, I think he can make some transactions and better his team. But in its current state, I would just give it a 6.
Yeah, I'm gonna follow that up
Yeah,
with
I was
4. I'm really low on this team. I can see the potential if he makes free agency transactions, but as is, I have to give it a 4.
5 with the potential to increase that if he makes good trades and free agency acquisitions.
I want to give it a 5. I mean, again, he has some good picks, but he has a lot of poor picks, and again, a lot of it does not work well together. Up a good point with Moltres being killable just by any kind of, like, you don't even have to bring Stone Edge, you just bring Rock Slide, and if you have Stealth Rocks up on the field, Moltres is going to be very crippled every time it comes back out if he has to switch it out. All a 5 is good. I think he needs to, like people are saying, he needs to do some free agency trades to make it better. 5, like, it's not really that great.
All right, so moving on past him, we have Hans of the Nern Ninetales. His team is Megalopunny, Rotom Wash, Xurkitree, Ditto, Cobalion, Durant, Araquanid, Mudsdale, Venomoth, Garbodor, and Drampa. This is a pretty interesting team. It's one of those teams that it has a lot of threats, but the synergy is kind of all over the place with having both Rotom Wash and Xurkitree. And I was really surprised to see him draft Ditto as early as round 4. Having said that, I really do like Cobalion. I think Mudsdale, now that has Stealth Rock, is also a better pick. Same thing of Araquanid now getting Sticky Web. Megalopunny is amazing, and I actually really like Drampa as a low tier pick because it's got some good abilities in Sap Sipper and Berserk. It's pretty bulky with good coverage, and it does actually have recovery and Roost, which could be useful in a few matchups. What does everyone else think?
I think that he does, like you said, have a lot of potential, especially offensively. But the one big things I look at is that basic checks to Megalopunny, it's almost always going to be some sort of bulky psychic type. Reuniclus, something like that. And besides Durant, which is very specially frail, he doesn't have a psychic resist, and his team is kind of obliterated by psychic types. Especially in prep, like you slap a choice specs on a psychic type, Scarf, he's going to get blown back, especially with a Pokemon like Megalopunny. It's something that he's going to have to prep around, which is kind of a major flaw when you're building around a Pokemon like Megalopunny.
Yeah, I actually agree a lot. The psychic weakness is a big deal, and especially because that's what his main Pokemon is really struggling with, is the psychic type. Having nothing to switch into those big spec psychics or Psyshocks or anything is really a big weakness. And there's a lot of psychic weaknesses, and there's very few psychic resists. I don't even see a dark type on here, which is very important to help you handle those sort of psychic Pokemon. So that's something I might like him to do with his free agencies, or make a change. But other than that, I do like a lot of the picks, and there is a lot of strength on this team. Yeah.
I have to say, when I see Hans' team, I see a lot from like how we were talking about with Roberts, where it's a little confusing overall. But the one difference, I think a lot of these Pokemon are actually really solid. I don't know if it'll work all together, and like they're saying, it would be nice to have something to kill Lopunny checks. And then also, I'm not a fan of the double electric types. Not being weak to ground for both of them is nice, but this team just sort of screams Haxorus weak to me. And just anything with Mold Break or Earthquake could be a problem for him. Yeah, it's a weird team, but I like a lot of the mons, unlike with Roberts.
Justin? Oh, yeah, you can go. You can go.
I have to agree with the psychic issue. Like, as I've mentioned in other drafts, like I've seen glaring weaknesses. I think the psychic weakness on his team is a very, very glaring one, because Honey is going to be like his main sweeper along with Xurkitree, at least from what I can look at. And with, like, he has Garbodor and Venomoth also weak to psychic. Thing that really resists it, like and Durant, and Cobalion doesn't resist it, it just neutralizes it with its steel typing. About anything else, and Durant is, like I mentioned, it's especially very frail, and honestly you could run, like, assume Robert was versus Hans, he could run HP Fire on Scizor Mega and probably kill Durant. Like, the thing is, he just, like, he doesn't have a good enough psychic types, and so it just, he needs to do something to fix that hole. Otherwise, he's going to suffer a lot in his matchups because it's like trying to build around that is going to be difficult. Just looking at his team.
You guys are all forgetting the true psychic type, which is Ditto is going to come in, mimic the psychic type, and then become psychic. Genius. So Han's clearly out here playing checkers or chess, while we're out here playing checkers.
Man,
to say
I
something,
lost to AV Ditto, so I mean, like, you know, anything's on the table. So we'll see. We'll see. It'll be interesting.
in a more serious note, I think just looking at the draft board real quick for free agency, I think his team would benefit so much from changing something like Venomoth to Drapion, a psychic immunity, but can also pursue trap and just get rid of them, as well as still setting toxic spikes if he cares about that. So maybe with a few free agency movements, he can make this team a bit better. I'm going to give it a 7 just because he does have some big threats. I don't really care for that massive weakness, as well as some of the overall synergy of his team. And I guess only having 2 stealth rockers, one more would help, especially because neither of them are, well, they're bulky, but they don't really have recovery.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a 6.5, not just because of the psychic, but also, you know, similarly to the psychic weakness, he has a pretty big fairy weakness too, and just a lot of general core things that he needs to figure out with general weaknesses across his board.
I was going to go with a 6. I think he has great power and he has the potential to do some really cool things with Ditto, but I like his synergy with some of the mons that he's drafted, and that's going to hold him back a little bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with a 6.5. He has threats, he has power, but I don't think he has team chemistry.
All right, so it looks like about 6.5. Oh, wait, no, Frank, you still have to say your thing.
I want to give him a 7 just because, again, I think it's a glaring weakness, but I don't think it's so bad to be a 6.5. I think he has a lot of good power on him, and I agree that he needs to drop something. Like Drapion would be a great pick for him. I think overall, I think his team is okay, is good enough to be a 7. He has a lot of strength on there. He has good enough bulk. I think it's good enough to be a 7.
Okay, so I guess about 6.77 average is about right. Yeah, moving on to Ryan of the Olympia Bearticks, keeping the West Coast train going here.
Woo!
His first pick, yeah, get hype for Carlos. First pick overall is Mew, which is also a Z-move user. And just thing to note, we are allowing, at least for this season, Mew and EMZ, which pairs really nicely with the next pick being Hawlucha with Unburdened. He then has Arcanine, Scolipede, Dragonite, Togekiss, Rotomote, which is his low-tier Z user, Klefki, Omastar, Masquerain, and Mega Tyranitar. Overall, I like this team. It's definitely got some big threats, and it's got some of the best setup options out of any team. Like a few Dragon Dance users, Scolipede with Swords Dance, and it can baton pass either speed or I guess regular stats doesn't step. Swords Dance has I guess like almost our Masquerade webs. Like lots of setup options. So definitely a threatening team.
This team has good power, and because we're allowing Unium Z, I definitely see like a lot the Mew Hawlucha combination with the Psychic Field or whatever. I think, like you mentioned, he has a lot of good setup options, which is always good to have. I don't see necessarily any large flaws. I just think that Masquerain is going to be kind of a poor choice. I mean, it's good. It gets Quiver Dance, it gets Webs, so I think it'll do fine. I think overall his team is solid. I think up for a lot of these, and I think he's lacking a bit in power. Well, not really. I don't know. I just feel like power for his team, but I don't think I'm too right on that. But yeah,
I think that looking at his team, he does have a ton of power and setup, which is going to make prepping for it extremely difficult. And I do see a glaring hazards weakness. If you look at the 3rd through 6th mons, they are all weak to Stealth Rock. And while he does have decent options to defog and Rotomo and Klefki, incredibly pressured to defog. you've got to keep your multi-scale up with Dragonite. You've got to keep your potential focus stash with Scolipede. And I think that takes away with some of the, setup opportunities that he's going to have with them on, because he doesn't have the best defensive backbone. And if hazards are up, it's going to be pretty easy to break through his team. I mean, he's going to be incredibly pressured to get rid of hazards.
When I look at this team, the Medium Z.
I mean, he also has the option to run defog on Mew if it really gets that desperate. He has defog options in Togekiss too. I do definitely agree. A lot of his team is pressured by Spikes, Stealth Rock, and a lot of the other hazards, as in Sticky Webs. I don't know why I said a lot of them, but yeah, no, he's definitely gonna have to struggle and find ways to fit defog into his builds. But he definitely has the options there to get those hazards off the table.
For me,
Yeah,
his team feels. Sorry. For me, his team feels a little one-dimensional with some of the Pokemon, like Hawlucha. If you get stuck in the repetition of using like Hawlucha with the berry for Mew and all that, I feel like some of these mons can run just one set every week. If he mixes it up, I think it'll work. But there are a few things that I'm not a fan of together.
Circulation desk will be closing in 30 minutes. If
That's
you need to check
fascinating.
out books, please bring them to the circulation desk on the first floor near the library entrance. The building
First
will remain
floor
open.
library entrance.
Okay, so Noah's a bit preoccupied. I'll take a bit. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
I echo what people have said. One thing I want to note is I feel like with so many defog options, it won't be as hard to keep hazards off the side of the field. But I do think Masquerain is going to be less useful because he kind of needs the defog, as Noah said, to preserve things like multi-scale and Dragonite. So it's unlikely he'll set up webs and keep them there for long. He also has a bit of a nice weakness. He has some solid resists, but against teams that have things like Kyurem Black or Weavile or Mamoswine, I can definitely see those being very difficult matchups to prepare for.
I think his team is still very good, even with the minor hazards weakness. There's going to be a little tough to switch around everything. I mean, I see what he was doing, saving his Mega for the last pick. It'd be very interesting on this team. I don't see necessarily a lot that synergizes well with it, but he does have a ton of fighting resists. So I'm really interested to see how he uses that. And overall, he's just got a ton of power.
Power.
Count how many times that's been said in the past 2 hours. I'm gonna go ahead and give his team, I think, an 8. Actually, I'm gonna go 7.5 just because of some of the common weaknesses, and I do agree in some aspects. I feel like he's gonna have to really get kind of creative with some of how he uses lower tier picks for them to be as effective, and he's definitely gonna have to work to keep hazards off the side of his field because they really do hurt him.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give him a 7. I think it's a very solid team and he's a lot of great Pokemon, but I don't quite see it working all together. But I think he can pull it through.
Deserves an 8. While I agree with people talking about the spite or like the hazard issues, I think overall, I like his team too much. It's got good power, good setup, and he's got like so much potential for different hazard setters on his own side. I think he deserves an 8. I think it'll do him well, and seeing how he's played in the past, like he's the reason Noah lost, didn't become champion season 3. He's the reason knocked out a few champions. I think he beat Brian too. Like I think Ryan's
yeah.
Yeah.
I think Ryan enough player that even with some of the issues on his team, I think he'll do just fine. I think he'll make it to playoffs, and I'm not sure if he'll win the championship, but I think he'll beat out Dennis. Like I think he'll continue that tradition of beating the champion.
I feel like Ryan's kind of a bit inconsistent. Like he's had seasons gone like top, like taking out past champs, done really well, and then a few seasons where he's like failed to make playoffs. So hopefully we can kind of see him at those peaks he's had because he is a good battler. This is definitely at least a threatening team.
he's a really good player, but the one thing that's completely stacked against him is there's no back-to-back champion. He can only knock out back-to-back champions, so I think Dennis absolutely has him.
Yeah, I think he's safe.
Yeah, I agree.
No worries here.
But like, how dope would it be if he like knocked out 3 past champions in a row and become the new champion? That's
That'd
a
be
sick.
storyline.
Who will become the first to
Brian
win
is
3? Who knows?
But
With
Brian,
Destiny
you're
of the
bad.
SBL.
It won't be me. I know that.
It's about to be young Carlos.
Carlos, that'd be amazing. I'd be amazed. Carlos, amaze me. Tier 1 player, by the way.
It's about to be Chabin, you losers. But to beat all of our asses. Anyways, we have 3 teams left. It's been a long night. Is it Sifra? Is it Sifra? How do you say your
Sufra?
name?
Sifra.
Sufra?
I say
Sifra.
Sifra, really, but it's
Sifra?
good.
Dope.
Is that your real name?
Is Brian?
Oh!
Unclear.
To be fair, I used a fake name my first season.
Yeah, what up,
Flashback to
Zed?
Young Zed.
My
Alright, so-
name's already taken, so I gotta be creative.
Are you the 4th Tony?
Newer Tony, oldest Tony.
New word.
Okay, so for the team, first pick is Manaphy, high tiers. Megaladios, Superior, Slurpuff, Nihiligo, Haxorus, Mimikyu, Alolan Golem, Lycanroc, Midday, which is low tier Z user, Volbeat, and Ursaring. I actually do like a lot of this draft. I like the synergy between some of his higher tier picks. I love that he has like most hazards available except I think spikes. And I like his Z users. I'm not even going to talk about Volbeat. I'm going to pretend it's not there. I do like Ursaring
Yes.
though. But yeah, pretty good. Also, really good setup with things like Manaphy, which can also use the moves in Superior and Haxorus and Mimikyu. So really good setup in that regard too, which is valuable.
I'm going to have to say, not a fan of the Manaphy pick. I think it should have gone 1 slot later. But overall, it's a very solid team. A lot of
You guys will
power.
just trade anyways.
Oh, you're right. Haxorus is amazing. I think Manaphy was probably the right choice, but Haxorus is also an amazing Z user. It comes down to preference at that point. But there isn't much on this team I dislike besides the Mon that shall not be named.
Volbeat?
Shh.
Oh,
I honestly
shit.
want to compare this almost a little bit to Dennis's team in a different aspect, where it's not necessarily the offensive pressure, but team applies like so many, like almost you're gonna have to predict around it, and there's so many potential sweepers. And it's another team where you can go into a game and not know what his win condition is, and you can play around that fantastically to set up for a specific mon. On the other hand, it does leave a little to be desired on the defensive end. Which is kind of a big issue when you're talking about defense. But I think, when you could play a hyper offensive game like this team is built around, I still think it can do a pretty fantastic job of that.
I guess just to say a couple things about my own team. It end up a little more hyper offensive than I think I had in mind when I was going for it. One thing that I'm really excited about is each of my top 5 picks get dual screens, and I think that's going to help with the unpredictability of where coming from. And then I'm really excited to try using Volbeat. Man, that thing's going to be fun. And if it ever had a chance to succeed, it's relative bulk. But honestly, I expected a little more hate for this team than it got. So
I actually personally don't like this team a lot. I would have liked to see like a lot more momentum from things like a faster electric. I don't think Golem Alola really does the job that an electric should do. And I think a lot of these Pokemon, yes, they are big threats, but none of them have that speed tier where they can come in against really offensive mons and really like pressure them out to set themselves up. And I think that's one of the weaknesses you might see struggling with like faster Pokemon. We'll have to see how he can handle them.
I think it's good. I think for as far as power goes, it's very solid. I think it needs more bulk. I think a Alolan Golem is not a really good pick. Or like it had a ground weakness as normal Golem, but now that weakness is even worse. Slow to do well. I don't think Golem's bulk was ever that amazing. I'm kind of excited to see what you do with Volbeat, because you once posted about that Thunderwave hacks team that you posted where basically you just abused paralysis and flinching and managed to get really high. So it shows to me that you're really creative with what you got. So I think I'm excited to see what Volbeat has to do. I think overall it's okay. It's got good setup, good hazards, but I think mostly I'm just kind of wondering what you're going to do with it. But it's all right.
One thing I wanted to mention about his team while we were talking hyper teams is I think especially in Gen 7 and like the past few seasons, we've seen kind of like more of the offensive teams tend to be the ones that actually win championships. I mean, like teams like Brian's from Season 3, as well as, I guess, this is Season 4 team, and then Dennis' Season 6 team. I think offense in this new gen is better than the full bulk teams that we used to see a lot of, so I think that's a good thing about sort of his archetype of team. That's more of a theory mon thing, but I figured I'd put that out there. I'm going to give him a 7.
I completely agree with that. 7.5, just almost based on that same reasoning. Defensively, it is going to struggle, but and just this new gen of mons, these hyper offensive teams can, and you got a lot of hazard options with Nihilego. And I just think it's going to do really well.
I'm going to give it probably 7.5. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 7.5 as well. I think it's a really good offensive team, but it also struggles with other more aggressive picks, and I think that could be its downfall.
I want to give it a 7.5 as well. I think it has a lot of good potential, and I think in his hands, I think it'll do well. A thing that I don't know, I don't think Alolan Golem's going to do much, and I'm also tentative on Volbeat, but I think he'll do well enough. So I think 7.5 is a fair enough rating.
All right, looks like we're pretty agreed on a 7.5 rating. So we will move on to Carlos in the Oklahoma City Electivire. The man of the hour in the chats or in the video. Anyways, his team is Scizor, Keldeo, which is a high tier Z user, Umbreon, Cresselia, Rotom Heat, Mega Pinsir, Gudra, Miltank, Alolan Raichu, which is low tier Z user, Lurantis, and Dusclops. Carlos started off amazingly, Scizor, Keldeo, Mega Pinsir, drafted Umbreon, Dusclops, Cresselia, and then was back to a typical Carlos draft. I do like this team though. Like it does have a good mix of fast offensive cleaners to set up and really, really disgusting cores that are gonna be tough to break down. But for a Pokemon like Mega Pinsir, his only defoggers or removers at all, unless I'm missing something, are Rotom Heats and Scizor. Regular Scizor is not a good Lurantis. I just feel like he doesn't have very reliable defoggers or spinners for Mega Pinsir, and his only actual setter of any kind is Miltank. And for a bulkier team, usually you see that paired with like Hazard Stack and Spin Blocking, and that sort of. Well, I guess it's Dusclops Spin Block, but usually you see bulkier teams paired with very good hazard control and hazard setting options, and I feel like that's really lacking in his team, which kind of weighs it down.
I think it's a good draft. Umbreon and Cresselia are both stupidly bulky, and I think he used Dusclops so well that I think it'll also serve as another stupidly bulky mon on his team. Rotom Heat, all the Rotom forms, in my opinion, have potential to be Wally in their own way. Keldeo are both solid attack options, and I think he did well choosing Keldeo as a Zmon. I'm not a fan of Raichu, but I think Alolan Raichu, in League format, it'll do a lot better than what I'm used to seeing it do. Though, it's fast at 105, but I think he's going to find himself relying on Lurantis to set Sticky Web a lot. just because of in a league format, Mega Pinsir is just not.
Sorry, let me stop you. Laurentis doesn't get Sticky Web.
Yeah,
Wow.
I was like, whoa,
thought
did I draft that well? Bruh.
What? Oh man. Okay, I feel
Very
dumb.
much.
Laurentis doesn't do anything. That's my opinion. Changed my mind.
Laurentis doesn't set webs. Wow. Okay, I think web setter just for Mega Pinsir. It's fast and it's strong, but I think it needs to be. I think it needs that webs. I think it needs everything else to be slower by that much, just for it to really sweep and do well. Past that, I like the bulk on his team: Gudra, Miltank, Cresselia, Umbreon. I think he's got an all right draft. I think it has some issues again with needing webs. But yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah, I think Carlos has pretty insane bulk on this team. Paired with the tools necessary, especially in this gen, like we were talking about a little earlier with Cifra, necessarily be one of the top teams in a league that's so offensive. Not the greatest hazard support and only one hazard setter, as well as definitely some issues speed-wise. I mean, her and Kelly are the only things on his team that outspeed. Alolan Raichu that outspeed base 100, and that's, if there brings an offensive team that just brings this after setup sweeper to try to break through his core, he's going to have a tough time revenge killing them.
The circulation desk will be closing.
Nice, good mute.
Good mute. I guess I can talk about my draft a little bit. Compared to previous seasons, I don't dislike this one, so that's a positive. Obviously, I've always struggled with hazards and hazard removal, so that's nothing new. I do know how to deal with it, although that doesn't mean much. I love Umbreon. I'm sad I didn't get Manaphy as it was sniped one pick before me, but the Keldeo speed will help, and I don't want to say too much about what I'm thinking, but I like it.
I personally don't really like this team too much. I think one of the things bulky teams struggle with is that they just don't put on enough pressure. They don't do enough damage. They don't have enough power. And I don't think putting a couple of wands like Pinsir Mega or Keldeo really solves that issue. Like, it just gives you a few potential threats, but it doesn't really fix the passiveness of the team, because the core Umbreon and Cresselia and the rest of those boring bulky Pokemon, they're still going to be passive, and they're still going to give opportunities away. And I think that's one of the things this team might struggle with, alongside the hazard situation.
All right. Does anyone else have anything to add? Okay. I'm gonna give this team. I'm gonna give it a 7. For the reasons Brian mentioned, like it definitely does rely on like one or like I guess 2 or 3 key Pokemon in a given matchup to do a lot of breaking, which might be difficult in a matchup, as well as just not really great control of the hazard game. Like, I know Carlos is a veteran; he's played around that before, but it would have been nice to see maybe something with toxic spikes, a few more hazard setters, etc. So I'm gonna go 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I'll go with 6.5 for like the same reasons I mentioned before.
I think a 7 is a good rating for this team.
I'll give it. I think I want to give it a 7.5. I think it's solid enough for what he knows how to use it. I think he knows how to use it. I think it's solid for what it's supposed to do. Again, I think I agree with Brian that the speed issue and the passiveness issue is going to be a big problem, but 7.5 is about where it stands.
Definitely biased here. I would give it a higher grade if I wasn't trying to not show how much I like this team, but I'll give it an 8.
So I'd say about a 7 average, somewhere in that range at least. And for our final team of the draft video, we have Brandon of the Albany Alterios. His team is Mega Gardevoir, Ferrothorn, Salamence, which is high tier Z user, Crocodile, Snorlax, Chandelure, Blastoise, Metagross, Aerodactyl, which is low tier Z user, Trevenant, and Lycanroc Midnight. I really do like this draft. I think it's got a lot of tried and true Pokemon and cores that like you see the high tier Fairy Dragon Steel Core, you know it's probably going to be Salamence, Mega Guard, really good at breakers. Snorlax is fantastic. Chandelure pairs really well as Ferrothorn with a fire weakness and it acts as a spin blocker for the hazards it sets. And I like his first, I guess, 9 picks. I don't really like Trevenant or Lycanroc Midnight as low tier picks. Trevenant is good typing, but defensively it's pretty frail. It's not the biggest offensive threat because it's so slow and frail. And same thing with Lycanroc Midnight. Like I feel like it's not. The other Lycanrocs are only good because they have good speed tiers. Whereas Lycanroc's not very bulky and it's not outspeeding that much. And it's not even the most powerful to begin with. So that would be my rating. What does everyone else think?
I think it's a pretty solid team. I don't think, aside from Trevenant and Lycanroc, there's nothing I don't like. I think we could see him bringing a lot of mons repetitively, but I love Metagross in League format, and then I think Snorlax pairs well with this team, and just a lot of it works well together.
I like his team a lot. I think Salamence as a Z user is a fantastic Z user. It can Dragon Dance, it can be special, it can do a ton of things. Really nice defensive type synergy. Like I mentioned before with Shandy and Ferrothorn. The one thing that is a little rough for me is that I don't see any real type of momentum that he can generate. I don't think a single mon gets U-turn or Volt Switch off the top of my head. If you're going to make a bulky team like that, it's going to be hard to put your offensive mons in a position to succeed without that momentum. It is a very good core, but he's going to have to work around that. Lycanroc Midnight is that it doesn't even get Accelerock. So I think that there could have been a more valuable thing that could maybe help him with momentum a little bit.
Yeah,
I really.
Go ahead.
I like his team a lot. I mean, for me, Ferrothorn is one of my favorite Pokemon in terms of like just using it in battle. It's super bulky. It's got Leech Seed. It's slow, so it uses Gyro Ball well. I think Ferrothorn is a great pick. I think Salamence, Gardevoir, Crocodile, Snorlax, Chandelure, I think those are all solid, powerful mons. Snorlax is really bulky on its own. Actually a defensive mon. If you use Intimidate and give it physically defensive, it can do well. It's not perfect, but it can do it. Metagross is a solid choice in terms of power. Spinner because it's extremely bulky, so it can actually take a few hits and spin. Just because I think its only like real attack moves are very inaccurate. I mean, besides flying type, like rock-wise, it just. I think that's the problem with rock types in general. They have inaccurate moves to begin with. Like, you don't really see many 100% accurate rock type attacks that are really powerful. Trevenant, I think, is not a good choice. It's not bulky enough, it's not fast enough, and it's not strong enough. And I don't like Lycanroc Midnight either. I think it's too slow. I think like someone mentioned, their big appeal is how fast they are with their strength. Midnight is not fast. It gets Iron Tail and Stone Edge with no guard as far as usefulness goes, but overall, I don't think it'll do well. I think I like all his draft overall. It has a lot of diversity in it, and he's got a lot of good. It's easy to work with, I think, and I think he'll do well with it.
Yeah, I will agree that one of those weaknesses is the momentum, like Noah was talking about. Not having a U-turn or Volt Switch on literally any Pokemon it's hard to play because once you get the driver's seat, you can lose it pretty quickly. And keeping the momentum from Volt Switch or U-turn, it lets you be proactive for a little bit longer instead of switch trading opportunities with your opponent. So I'd like to see how he works around that. Definitely, if it's really well played, he should be okay. But it is something that would have been nice to see, especially to give that strong threat in Gardevoir Mega the opportunity to get off those powerful hyper voices.
Hi, Gaiden.
Hi, Gaiden.
Hey, what's up?
Gaiden.
We just finished.
I don't know. I agree with pretty much everything you guys said. I I like the team as a whole. I agree with Frank that the last two picks are a little odd. There's a lot of pressure on Blastoise to be the only hazard mover because I don't think you'll want to bring Aerodactyl or Salamence very much with Defog. Oh, it kind of sucks because Blastoise is the best spinner. It's not bad, but like no recovery kind of makes that difficult. But overall, I like that a really good offensive core. I like picking Snorlax and Chandelure because Snorlax is probably the best counter to Chandelure. And I think Chandelure is very underrated in League, so I think that's going to be pretty scary.
All right, so overall, I'm gonna give this team actually. I'm gonna go 8.5 because I think the first 9 picks are so solid that they kind of interchange those week by week. I'm not sure if his tier Ds are great, but they're also tier Ds. He even has 10 extra points up if he wants. So what's everyone else saying?
I would eight.
I think he deserves 9, just because, like, again, like you said, his first 9 picks are really good. Like, will be good enough for him to do very well. And I think, his last 2 TD picks, I think he could do better. I don't know what. He has 10 free extra points, so I suppose he can easily use free agency and get something better for his team. But I think the first 9 picks really put his team at the level of 9.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna give this a 7.5. Like we talked about before, the momentum is an issue, but also it's very little to come in on a powerful dark attack. He has absolutely no he has one resistant crocodile, but it's just very hard for him to handle a strong knockoff. Kind of having to depend on one Pokemon to handle those kind of threats. It'll definitely be a challenge for him, especially because Pokemon like Chandelure or Metagross, they're slow and they give us the opportunity for those strong dark types to get off a big knockoff and really threaten this team. So I want to see how he handles those, and so I'm going to give it a 7.5.
An 8 because I think he's got great potential, but I see that Parathorn is a very tough Pokemon to use right, just because you can stop on a fire move on anything, and he's going to really need to look to keep up momentum, even though he has such a great core as a team to build around. So I think that offensive goal gives him an 8.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with the 7.5.
I'll go with 8.25.
All right, so I think the average was about, approximately an 8-ish. So we'll go with that, and more than 2 hours later, we are finally done all of these teams. So, yeah, we have a bowl predictions video coming. That will be another video because it's already long. Shout outs to the people who popped in for partway through, like Gaten, Corey, Jared was here earlier, and then Noah and Brian partway through. Anyone else have anything else to say?
I think Zipper will get swept by Lumineon. I just want to say that now.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
And you made it this far, you will power I've ever seen.
You have so much power within you. So much power. Lots of power. I'm very proud that you have the power to watch this whole video. Thank you. And please like and subscribe. Other than that,
100 likes.
we'll get a top 10 animated or SBL betrayals video.
If we get 10 likes on this draft video, I will make top 10 saltiest moments in the SBL video.
You can make that anyways. So.
I'm gonna.
And good night.